Chapter 29. Fight. Fight until the opponent submits. Tion did not waste any words. His two hind legs stomped on the ground, and a huge force caused his burly body to instantly soar into the air. He did not use any demon power. He wanted to test whether his body or the Ape King's was stronger. The two tiger claws pounced towards the Ape Monkey King, the sharp edge of the claws emitting a chee-chee sound in the air. It went straight for the ape's face. Squeak squeak! The golden ape also moved. Its two monkey claws quickly danced in front of its body, as if there were suddenly many hands on its body. Streaks of sharp claws enveloped Tion's entire body. Bang bang bang! A series of muffled rumbling sounds were heard, and an intense battle instantly took place in the valley. Tion's gaze was sharp, and his two tiger claws carried his own domineering aura. When he waved his claws, it seemed as if there was a hidden powerful force, wanting to tear everything in front of him into pieces. His entire body had turned into a sharp weapon. His huge body was either crashing or pressing, and his huge tiger mouth also revealed sharp tiger teeth. The tail behind him was as agile as a snake, whipping out from impossible angles. If he was really hit with his current strength, he could definitely kill a wild boar immediately. It was definitely not a good feeling. However, the Ape King was definitely not without true ability to be the king here. Its body was extremely agile as it quickly jumped around Tion. As it moved, it only brought out a series of golden afterimages. The speed of its claws waving was very fast. Often, when Tion only waved one claw, it could instantly wave 3 claws. Its performance in terms of speed could be said to be quite outstanding. This little guy is really interesting. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe that a black tiger that has not yet become a demon beast would think of subduing subordinates and accumulating a team for itself. The black tiger's intelligence is so high. This is definitely not something that those animals that have just developed intelligence can have. At this time, a mysterious woman was standing on a mountain peak not far from the Monkey Valley, looking at the battle below. The surprise in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Tion's performance was different from other spiritual monsters. Other spiritual monsters, after gaining sentience, were ignorant and ignorant. They only knew how to instinctively absorb the essence of the sun and moon, and would not think of cultivating on their own. Only after becoming a demonic beast would they be able to possess intelligence comparable to humans. However, he was different. Not only did he know how to cultivate, but he also consciously began to subdue some of the kings in the mountain range that possessed spirituality. This was not something that spiritual monsters would do. Even if they became demonic beasts, they would only guard their own territory. Very few of them left. It seems that I have inadvertently met someone of my kind who is destined to shine in the immortal cultivation world. The mysterious girl pursed her lips and smiled. He didn't say anything else, quietly watching the fierce battle in the field. At this moment, the battle in the valley had reached its climax. Roar! A domineering tiger roar came out from Tion's mouth. Although he didn't use the tiger roar sound wave, the tiger roar had a strong innate tiger aura. In an instant, the Ape King's body that was moving quickly around him suddenly paused. Although it was only for a moment, Tion needed this moment. The pitch-black tiger tail was raised high and lashed out at the Ape King. Bang! The body paused, causing a flaw to appear in its body. Tion had already calculated this, and this tail whip was just right. Almost at the moment it paused, it had already appeared beside it. It couldn't dodge even if it wanted to. Under a heavy force, the Ape King's body was thrown to one side and fell to the ground. He rolled on the ground and tried to stand up. However, this whip was deliberately calculated by Tion. The part that was whipped was not the body, but the Ape King's feet. Therefore, when it was about to stand up, it felt a sharp pain in its right leg, and immediately lost its original agile speed. Roar! At this moment, Tian didn't give it any chance to react and pounced again. Two powerful tiger claws instantly pressed down on the Ape King's two ape arms and threw it to the ground. The huge force made it impossible for the other party to break free. A huge tiger mouth appeared in front of the Ape King's eyes. The sharp teeth could bite its throat in the first moment. "Submit or die." Tian's voice was incomparably cold. In the jungle, there was no need for mercy. The strong were respected. Now that he had defeated the Ape King, he had the qualifications to make the other party submit. Squeak, squeak. The Ape King opened its spiritual eyes, cried out twice, and slowly lowered its head. Any spiritual animal would have some concept of life and death. Moreover, Tian defeated it with his own strength, so it wasn't too difficult for it to submit. "Your Majesty, your subordinate is willing to submit." Hearing the Ape King submit, Tian released the tiger claws that pressed it to the ground. Hiss! The golden ape stood up from the ground, turned around and roared at the valley. Immediately, thousands of monkeys of all sizes ran out of the valley. Although there was still some fear in their eyes, they still quickly appeared behind the Ape King. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The Ape King led the group of monkeys and formally bowed to Tian. "Good." Tian nodded, looked at the Ape King, and said, "From today onwards, you are the second king under this king. You are an ape. Apes go to the side and take the surname Yuan. Your claws are sharp and have the power to split the sky. I will give you the name Yuan Tian." This king, Tian, since he had already accepted it as a subordinate, it couldn't not have a name. The Ape King was born spiritual. When it heard that it had a name, it couldn't help but scratch its head with its claws in joy and was about to jump up. Its tone was more respectful as it thanked. "Thank you, Your Majesty, for bestowing a name." After it finished speaking, it scratched its head again and said, "Please follow me, Your Majesty." After it finished speaking, it led the group of monkeys into the depths of the valley. Tian brought the Wolf King by you and followed into the valley. Outside the valley and inside the valley had a completely different feeling. Waves of tempting fragrance continuously poured into the lungs from the nose, and a very rich spiritual energy filled the valley. It made people feel relaxed and happy. As they walked and looked, they discovered that this was indeed a rare treasure land. There were fruit trees forming a forest, and in the forest there was a clear cold pond. The water in the cold pond was not cold at the top, but the water below was bone-chilling. This was one of the most amazing things about it. After passing through the fruit forest, the front suddenly opened up. It was an empty field, but there was a huge cave in front of it. In front of the cave there were a few tall apes guarding. The eyes of these apes were quite sharp, constantly scanning every corner. Almost nothing could escape their eyes. Seeing the Ape King Yuan Tian bringing Tian and the others over, their respectful eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of fear. The natural fear of the King of Beasts couldn't be shaken off. "Your Majesty, please follow me into the cave." The Ape King jumped into the cave with a trace of excitement in its eyes. Tian followed in. What a strong wine fragrance! As soon as he entered the cave, his nose twitched slightly. Immediately, a strong wine fragrance entered his nose. Inhaling into his lungs, he immediately felt refreshed. This was a kind of wine fragrance that he had never smelled before. The fragrance was very strange. At this moment, a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. A ball of light burst out from his eyes. Since ancient times, apes were an animal with an extremely spiritual nature. They could find all kinds of fruits to eat. However, over time, they had a unique ability to brew a strange wine, monkey wine. Monkey wine, as the name implied, was a fruit wine brewed by monkeys. According to legend, the raw materials of the monkey wine were all carefully selected by the monkeys. Then, after being moistened by the mountain spring and fermented, the fruit wine finally formed had a sweet and mellow taste, with a faint floral fragrance. No one knew what these raw materials were. Moreover, there were definitely not many who could brew such a monkey wine. If it wasn't a group of monkeys with a considerable history, it was absolutely impossible to brew it. Therefore, in this world, there were many people who knew about the monkey wine, but there were very few who had really tasted it. Any pot that was spread out would make those who loved wine break their head. One could imagine how precious and rare it was. Originally, Chertion didn't have this thought, but as soon as he entered the cave, he smelled this strange wine fragrance, and finally this idea emerged. Could it be that this cave is the place where the monkey wine is brewed? Thinking of this, the light in Chertion's eyes became even stronger. He hurriedly followed the Ape King's footsteps and quickly walked into the depths of the cave. The cave was not straight down. Instead, there were many curved passages. There were no traces of axe chiseling inside. It could be seen that it was a naturally formed karst cave. Now, it had been used by the monkey clan as a place to live and brew wine. After a few turns, his eyes suddenly opened up. He saw that in front of him was a hollow cave. It was very large and could accommodate hundreds of monkeys living here. However, this place was quite clean. It didn't seem to be used for living because, in the middle, there was a small pool of 3 to 4 meters in size. In the pool, there was a pool full of amber transparent liquid. Whew! Taking a deep breath, Chertion was already sure in his heart. The wine fragrance that he smelled earlier was emitted from this pool. Looking at the size of this pool, the wine inside was definitely not a small amount. Beside the wine pool, there were stone ladles of various sizes. It seemed that they were used to drink wine. Your Majesty, this is the fruit wine brewed in my clan. Your Majesty, please have a taste. When the Ape King came here, he also seemed very excited. Looking at the wine in the wine pool, he also seemed a little impatient. Chapter 30. What wine is this? Although Chertion already had a plan in his heart, he still asked the Ape King Yuan Tian. In fact, he had already guessed that this was most likely the legendary monkey wine. Sure enough, the Ape King bared his teeth and scratched his head with his claws. He said, "My king, this is a recipe left behind by the ancestors of my monkey race. It needs to be hung on the mountain wall. It needs to be brewed with a type of bright red fruit and many other fruit. Every year, we can only get a small pond. We are of the monkey race, so we named the wine monkey wine. After drinking it, you can gain strength." The Ape Monkey King simply explained. The secret recipe of this monkey wine was a secret of the monkey clan. There weren't many people who knew about it. During the brewing process, the amount of ingredients needed was so much that it gave one a headache. However, Sakura didn't know about it. The bright red fruit mentioned by the Ape Monkey King was the vermilion fruit that grew on the cliff. The vermilion fruit was a rare treasure of heaven and earth. The other fruits were even more carefully selected. They were all the best: ripe fruits, ginseng dug from the mountains, sealwort, various kinds of flowers mixed together, and cold spring water from the cold pond. The water quality was first class. With all kinds of requirements put together, one could imagine that brewing the monkey wine was definitely not an ordinary difficulty. If it wasn't a big monkey group, and if it wasn't a monkey group with a long history, then it would definitely not brew such a magical wine like the monkey wine. Voila! The Ape King quickly jumped to the side of the wine pool, grabbed a stone ladle that was used to hold wine, scooped up a ladle from the wine pool, and carefully carried it in front of Chertion. Chertion looked at the amber liquid in the ladle. The rich wine fragrance was continuously emitting from it. It was very tempting. He could faintly feel that there seemed to be a strange spiritual energy in this wine fragrance. Just by smelling it, one could raise one's spirit. Thinking of the Ape King's words earlier, that drinking this wine could increase one's strength, he was also moved. "Your Majesty, please taste it." The Ape King held the monkey wine and looked at Chertion expectantly. Chertion was already moved, so he didn't refuse. He faced the ladle and took a deep breath. Gulp! The moment he took a sip, He felt that this wine was indeed different from the rest. The amber color of the wine was sweet, and it gave him a refreshing feeling. It was as if he had tasted the wonderful taste of hundreds of spirit fruits in the world in an instant. That feeling was incomparably mystical. It flowed down his throat into his stomach. Suddenly, a gentle heat continuously rose from his stomach. It was so warm that it made people unconsciously feel intoxicated. It's really a strange wine. There's actually such a dense amount of spiritual energy in the wine. Tian was shocked. He didn't think much about it. After instructing the Wolf King to guard by his side, he directly lay on the ground and closed his eyes. The demonic power in his body was driven by him and quickly circulated, driving the surging heat in his body. Every time it circulated, a part of the heat would be converted into demonic power. There was also a lot of demonic power that merged with the flesh and blood in his body along his meridians to strengthen his physique. He only drank a ladle of monkey wine, but the spiritual energy that rose in his body was endless. Every time he refined a part of it, another part would immediately emerge from his body. This made Tian feel as if he had taken the spirit-gathering pill. However, there was a difference. The medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill was too strong. If he wasn't careful, he would be injured. The spiritual energy in the monkey wine was quite gentle. After absorbing a part, another part would emerge. It wouldn't damage his meridians. In this aspect, it was even more magical than the spirit-gathering pill. Moreover, even if he didn't know how to refine it, this power might dissipate a lot. However, a part of it would remain in his body and slowly merge with his body as time passed. This was the reason why the Ape King said that drinking wine could increase his strength. Obviously, the Ape King didn't know how to cultivate. Otherwise, with such a pool of monkey wine, it would be better than any elixir. Drinking wine while cultivating would yield twice the result with half the effort. At that time, the strength of the Ape King alone wouldn't be as strong as it was now. It was possible that it would be several times or even dozens of times stronger. This thought only turned in Tian's mind for a moment. He didn't think much about it and threw all the thoughts to the back of his mind. This ladle of monkey wine couldn't be wasted. He had to seize the time to refine the wine. His strength would definitely be stronger again. Circulating the tiger roar technique, black gas was emitted from his body, covering Tian's body in black demonic power. It was difficult for people to see his figure from the outside. Even so, the Wolf King Bai Yu and the Ape King were loyally guarding the surroundings. Their eyes were shining brightly, not allowing anyone to approach. This meditation, after a full 2 hours. Swoosh! The black demonic power that enveloped his body rolled violently and was quickly retracted back into his body. Tian suddenly stood up, full of energy. His 2 eyes emitted a threatening light, and the tiger's might on his body became stronger and stronger. What a magical spirit wine! It's even more magical than the spirit-gathering pill. A ladle of monkey wine is actually comparable to 2 spirit-gathering pills. No wonder everyone wants to taste the monkey wine. Ordinary people can prolong their lives after drinking it. Tian couldn't help but sigh. There was actually such a magical wine in this world. Previously, he was still thinking that he had already used more than a dozen spirit-gathering pills. The rest could only support him until he could accumulate enough demonic power to fill the meridians in his body and raise his cultivation to the peak of the 3rd level. After opening up the demon mansion, there would be no shortcuts for him to cultivate further. He didn't expect to find a spirit wine like the monkey wine here today. With these spirit wines, he could completely support his cultivation for a long time. The most important thing was that even if the monkey wine was finished, with the Ape King and his monkey descendants, they could find the raw materials and continue to brew it. It didn't need to be like the spirit-gathering pill. If it was used up, there would be no other way to obtain it. Yuan Tian, can you still brew this monkey wine? Tian had a plan in his heart. He turned his head and looked at the Ape King with sparkling eyes. He asked, "King, to brew the monkey wine as long as there are materials and fruit. However, the amount that can be brewed every year is very limited. Many of the materials are difficult to find." The Ape King was also clever. Hearing Di Shirtian's question, he vaguely understood that he wanted this monkey wine. Yuan Tian, immediately bring your people to the forest to find bamboo. Use the bamboo tube to store all the monkey wine. Once it's done, I will teach you the secret cultivation method in the future. It will allow you to have powerful strength. As Di Shirtian spoke, he raised his tiger claw and lightly waved it at the stone wall not far away. Suddenly, a pitch-black tiger claw condensed in front of him and bombarded the stone wall with lightning speed. Boom! An incomparably huge deep hole split open on the stone wall. Countless shattered stones surged and shot out in all directions. They hit the ground, bursting out waves of light sounds. This method made the Ape King's eyes light up. This kind of strength had completely exceeded the Ape King's imagination. All along, he had only been using his own body. Although he often drank the monkey wine, he didn't know how to cultivate and wasted most of the wine's power in vain. Humans weren't the only ones who yearned for strength. In this world that followed the law of the jungle and respected the strong, they yearned for strength even more. Therefore, when he saw Di Shirtian's magical attack, the Ape King's heart was filled with yearning. Of course, he had more respect and loyalty towards Di Shirtian in his heart. Subduing people not only required strength, but also a combination of kindness and authority. Yes, my king. Yuan Tian will definitely do it well. The Ape King didn't feel too sorry for this pool of monkey wine. At that time, he patted his chest loudly. Also, be prepared to move out of Tiger Hill mountain range at any time. This mountain range is no longer safe. In 1 or 2 days we will have to leave. Di Shirtian also passed down the things that needed to be done. Now that the Ape King had been subdued, only the Condor King and the Python King needed to be subdued. Once they were subdued, they couldn't stay in this mountain range for even a moment longer. They had to leave this place as soon as possible. The further they left, the better. There was no need to think too much about other things, as long as they could escape from the upcoming danger. At that time, relying on himself and the few kings under him, they could completely occupy a mountain forest in other places and establish a foundation. As for the secret cultivation technique, since he decided to establish his own force, he didn't intend to hide it. It wasn't enough to be strong by himself. Only by establishing a strong force could he truly have a certain degree of deterrence, so that everyone who wanted to attack him would think twice before making a move. Therefore, Di Shirtian had long planned to impart some cultivation techniques to the kings under him as soon as they were out of danger. They would embark on the path of demon cultivation together. Well, let's go. We will go to the next place. Let's go to Condor Peak. Di Shirtian called out. The Wolf King immediately understood and left the cave. It led the way and ran quickly in the direction of Condor Peak. After they left, the Ape King also took action. It immediately ordered the monkeys to go to the nearby bamboo forest to look for bamboo. At the same time, it was also actively preparing for the migration. Di Shirtian was urgently preparing to leave Tiger Hill mountain range. At this moment, the Princess of Chu Yun and the others who escaped from him 3 days ago did something else. Senior Brother Duanqing. This time your family help. Chu Yun will definitely thank you in the future. In an abandoned mountain village at the edge of Tiger Hill mountain range, a clear and pleasant voice sounded. Following the voice, they saw that the Princess of Chu Yun, who had escaped from the mountain range earlier, was walking with a handsome man with a smile on her face. Not far behind the two of them, Jing Baichuan and Qin Hai were indignant. Their eyes never left the two of them. He looked at the princess of the Chu Yun Empire with adoration, but when he looked at the man, his gaze was sharp. Chapter 31. If looks could hurt, the man would have been riddled with holes by now. Don't worry, junior sister Yun. Coincidentally, my Li family has encountered this matter. If we don't help, Xiangchen will definitely be punished by my father when he returns. Please don't worry, junior martial sister. Xiangchen went out to experience the world and was accompanied by 2 elders of the family. They are both foundation establishment stage experts. Wait a moment, I will personally ask the 2 elders for help. Given how much the elders love me, they will definitely agree to help. When the time comes, it will be a piece of cake to subdue the black tiger demon in the forest. The young man named Li Xiangchen was very elegant, and it could be seen that he was trying to curry favor with the princess of Chu Yun. Thank you, senior brother. The princess of Chu Yun smiled sweetly at Li Xiangchen. Li Xiangchen was stunned, and his eyes were filled with infatuation. Smack! Behind them, Qin Hai and Li Xiangchen were so jealous that they almost went crazy. They slapped the tree beside them, causing the tree to shake violently and the leaves to fall. Speaking of this incident, it happened 3 days ago. At that time, the princess of Chu Yun and the others used the divine travel talisman to escape quickly. Di Shitian was blocked by Jing Baichuan's talismans, and they immediately disappeared without a trace. The divine travel talisman could allow one to travel 1,000 miles in a day. It was not an exaggeration. It did not take long for them to rush out of the mountain range. However, they did not return to the place where they entered. Instead, they appeared in another direction of the mountain range. As they were afraid that Di Shitian would chase after them, they did not stop after leaving the mountain range. They continued to fly forward for a long distance. But they did not expect that this was also a coincidence. Along the way, they actually ran into Li Xiangchen, who had come out to train. Speaking of Li Xiangchen, his background was not simple. In this world, there was a difference between the secular world and the immortal cultivation world. Generally speaking, people in the immortal cultivation world rarely interacted with the secular world. They wholeheartedly devoted themselves to the path of immortal cultivation and seized every inch of time to cultivate. They hoped to break through to a higher level before their lifespan ran out. Therefore, although there were legends of immortal cultivators in the secular world, they were rarely seen. However, there was a special case, and that was the cultivation families. What was a cultivation aristocratic family? Speaking of which, this aristocratic family was actually a family-style cultivation clan. For example, if a disciple of a sect in the immortal cultivation world felt that he could not achieve much on the path of immortal cultivation, he would go down the mountain and marry a wife and have children in the secular world. There was a high chance that the bloodline of an immortal cultivator would give birth to an offspring with spiritual root. After that, they would pass down the cultivation techniques to their descendants, allowing them to embark on the path of cultivation. After a few decades or even 100 years, they would be able to form a cultivation family. This kind of cultivation clan not only had a certain connection with the cultivation world, but also couldn't be separated from the secular world. It was a very special existence. However, some of the big families that had been passed down for hundreds or thousands of years were often quite powerful. Some of the superfamilies were almost comparable to the cultivation sects in the immortal cultivation world. Within the aristocratic families, there was an even stricter division. For example, in a family, only a few people with spiritual roots who had yet to reach the foundation establishment stage would be classified into the lowest third-rate aristocratic families. Those with foundation establishment experts could be called second-rate aristocratic families. A clan that has a completion-leveled powerhouse is considered to be one of the top clans. As for super aristocratic families, which were the top cultivation families, they had nascent soul-old monsters in the family. Such aristocratic families were completely comparable to those sects in the immortal cultivation world. Usually, the strength they had accumulated was quite large. As for Li Xiangchen, he happened to be the young master of the Li family, a first-rate aristocratic family. There was a core formation expert in the family, and the aristocratic family was located in the Chu country. After the two of them walked together for a while, Princess Chu Yun found an excuse and returned to her room. Looking at Princess Chu Yun, who had returned to her room, Li Xiangqun's eyes were no longer infatuated with her. He also turned and left, entering a relatively good-looking wooden house in the mountain village. As soon as he entered, he saw two middle-aged men silently sitting cross-legged in the house, meditating. "Second uncle, third uncle, Chern has just followed your instructions and agreed to Princess Chu Yun's request to enter the mountain to help her catch the black tiger that has already cultivated into a demon," Li Xiangqun respectfully reported to the two of them. Hearing the voice, the one on the left opened his eyes slightly and looked at him. He nodded approvingly and said, "Xiangqun, you did well. Remember, catching the black tiger is a small matter. As long as you have a relationship with the Chu family, it's best if you win the heart of the Chu family's little princess. That will bring countless benefits to our entire family. Chern, your second uncle is right." At this time, the other person also opened his eyes and said gently, "Although our Li family has an ancestor and is squeezed into a first-rate cultivation family, compared to the Chu family, we are just ants in front of an elephant. As long as you can establish a relationship with the Chu family's little princess, not only will our family's status be stable, we might even have a chance to produce a nascent soul expert." Xiangqun understands. Li Xiangqun's eyes flashed and he hurriedly agreed. He couldn't help but say, Chern promised Princess Chu Yun that he would enter the mountain tomorrow to help her catch the black tiger. According to what they said, the black tiger is no small matter. I'm afraid we'll have to ask second uncle and third uncle to help. Don't worry. When you're in danger, your third uncle and I will naturally rescue you. Thank you, second uncle, third uncle. Li Xiangqun respectfully bowed and left the wooden house. In the wooden house where the Princess of Chu Yun lived, a strange expression appeared on her face. She looked outside the house and muttered, "I originally planned to send a letter to ask my family to send someone over to help. However, that would definitely alarm the rest of the family. If they knew that I was almost in danger, it would be difficult for me to come out again. Now that I've met the Li family, they will definitely help me. I can use them to help me catch the black tiger." As she spoke, she waved her small fists in the air a few times. Her eyes revealed a trace of craftiness as she said, "Black tiger, you can't escape. The more powerful you are, the more I want to catch you and make you my spiritual beast." As a woman of the royal family, how could she look at him with the eyes of an ordinary woman? She might suffer a great loss if she did not do so. Nevertheless, under the lead of Wolf King, they ran continuously for more than 2 hours before finally arriving in front of a towering mountain peak. What a dangerous mountain peak! Di Shirtian stood at the foot of the mountain and looked up at the sky. Naturally, a thought came to his mind. The mountain was filled with strange stones and steep cliffs. Even a martial arts master would find it difficult to climb such a mountain. If one was not careful, they would fall from the mountainside and be smashed to pieces. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. It was really quite frightening. Moreover, this mountain peak was bare. There was not a single plant or tree to be seen. It looked very lifeless. As soon as one got close to it, one would feel a stifling aura. However, there were many caves of various sizes on this cliff. They could vaguely see that there were figures moving in the cave. "Your Majesty, this is the place where the group of vultures live." Wolf King looked around and reported to Di Shirtian. Actually, Sakra had already seen through the dangers of this mountain. Moreover, the vulture had always liked to live on the precipitous cliff. By digging a cave on top of it, they could shelter themselves and it was still relatively safe. It could be said that this was the most suitable place for vultures to live. The surroundings were extremely quiet. Hoa! Di Shirtian jumped on a big rock and took a deep breath. On his forehead, the purple king pattern kept jumping like a flame. He opened his mouth and let out a tiger's roar that shook the sky. "Awoo!" The tiger's roar sounded in this silent place. It was like a sudden thunderclap, shaking heaven and earth. The tiger's roar was long and continuous. The domineering tiger's power and the natural king's aura filled heaven and earth with the tiger's roar. It had an impulse to make people kneel at its feet. In the roar, there was a trace of the domineering and strong sense of provocation. "Awoo!" The tiger's roar enveloped the entire mountain peak, startling a large flock of vultures on the cliff. These vultures felt the strong and domineering aura of the tiger, causing them to lose their heads out of fear and fly randomly in the air. His eyes were filled with fear as he looked at the black tiger below. "Awoo!" Just at this moment, a sharp chirp appeared in the sky. Although the sound wasn't as loud as Sakra's, it was still quite sharp. Hearing this chirp, those vultures that were flying in panic suddenly seemed to have found their backbone. They calmed down one after another and looked towards the highest mountain peak. Whoosh! A loud wind blew. Looking up, one could see a giant vulture that was 10 times larger than the average vulture flying out. There was a tuft of golden feathers on its head. Its beak was unusually sharp, and its 2 eyes were as sharp as arrows. It seemed to be able to pierce through people alive. The 2 claws below its body were like hooks, flashing with a terrifying cold light. One claw could cover a person's head, and in an instant, it would tear a few big holes and tear the head off. It could be seen that it was quite terrifying. Needless to say, this was the king of the vultures, the Vulture King. The Vulture King was startled by Deshertian's tiger's roar that was filled with provocation. In the face of provocation, no king could avoid it. Once they did, they would lose all their prestige in the tribe, and they would no longer be the king of the tribe. "Awoo!" The vulture spread its huge wings and flapped them a few times in the air. Suddenly, it bent down and stretched out 2 sharp claws, grabbing towards Deshertian without hesitation. The attack came without any warning. It only wanted to kill Deshertian in one hit. Chapter 32. In the forest, there was no such thing as a prelude to a battle, such as good and evil have always been at odds, or evil can never triumph over good. These were all bullshit. There was only one way to deal with a provocator, and that was to kill him. Of course, there was no need to give him any hints. Good timing! Deshertian's eyes narrowed. Even though he was one of the strongest demons, he couldn't fly. He knew too few spells, almost none. Other than the Tiger Roar sonic wave, he had learned the rest by himself. The condor was the king of the sky, and he was the overlord of the ground. If the Condor King didn't come down, he would have to use the Tiger Roar sonic wave to deal with him. The claws of the vulture were incomparably sharp, with a yellow metallic luster on them. They were wide open, bringing with them a sharp aura as they swooped down from the sky. The claws pierced through the air, creating a sharp sound as they rubbed against the air. Sakra's body emitted an awe-inspiring tiger aura. The pride of being the king of all beasts made him not even blink his eyes when facing this fierce attack. He allowed the fierce claw wind to appear above his head, stimulating the fur on his head to explode, like a hedgehog standing up. The purple mark on his forehead was like a purple flame dancing. Roar! He let out a deep roar, then 2 beams of frightening light burst out from his eyes. Following a swooshing sound, a black ball of demon power emerged from his head, shielding his head. Pooh! The demonic aura appeared at the perfect time. As soon as it appeared, the 2 claws of the vulture landed on the black mist formed by the demonic aura. The black mist rolled violently like cotton, soft and without any force, negating the sharp attack of the vulture's claws. At the same time, Deshertian raised one of his tiger claws and slashed at the Condor King. Swoosh! A sharp claw slashed through the air, bringing with it a deep black light, and landed on the Condor King's right wing. Roar! The Condor King screamed in pain. There were a few more cuts on his wing and fresh blood dripped down. But how could the Condor King admit defeat like this? The feathers on its wings contracted rapidly, quickly closing the wound. It temporarily stopped the bleeding. It lowered its head and opened its beak, which was like a sharp cone, to peck at D. Shirtian's left eye. The eagle's beak didn't reach him, but the sharpness of its beak seemed like it was going to cut open a wound on his body and blind D. Shirtian's eyes. On the pair of wings, the feathers looked like they were made of iron. When all of them were spread out, they were more than a meter wide. While attacking the Sakra's eyes, the pair of wings didn't stop and slapped down on his body. Whoosh whoosh! Strong wind with heavy pressure shrouded the Sakra's body. If one was really hit by this pair of iron wings, even a stone would be smashed into pieces. From the very beginning, the Condor King had no intention of showing any mercy. He was going for the kill. If it had been an ordinary tiger, there was no way he would have been able to dodge that claw alone. If he were to be caught, he would have been sent flying off the ground. He would have been able to tear the other party into two with just a tug of his claws. The eagle's beak was vicious. If he were to peck at the eye, he would have been instantly blinded. A pair of iron wings would have taken half his life. Roar! However, D. Shirtian did not panic in the face of such a ferocious attack. His eyes were still calm, revealing traces of coldness. The aura of a king quickly spread out from his body. Bang! A dull sound rang out in front of him. Just as the eagle's beak was about to peck at his eye, a pitch-black tiger claw blocked the eagle's beak. The sharp eagle's beak collided with the tiger's claw, producing a metallic sound. The tiger's tail behind him was like a long whip, emitting a dark glow. He turned his waist and lashed out at the pair of iron wings. Bang! The iron wings contained the power of thousands of kilograms. D. Shirtian's tail also contained a large amount of power. Just in case, he had even infused his demon energy into the tail. Immediately, with a dull sound, the condor was sent flying into the sky by the explosive force from the tail. Roar! However, as the king of his tribe, the Condor King would not admit defeat so easily. He flapped his wings and circled in the air. He made full use of his advantage in the air and continuously attacked D. Shirtian. Sharp claws, sharp beak, and a pair of iron wings with frightening strength. Every part of his body was used to attack. Sakra wasn't afraid at all. No matter how ferocious the Vulture King's attacks were, he was still able to deal with them calmly. Again and again, he blocked the Vulture King's attacks and launched a sharp attack at any time to counterattack. This intense battle caused the Wolf King and the group of condors in the sky to look on with shock and fear. This kind of battle was completely different from the slaughter of ordinary animals. Almost every attack from the two of them far exceeded that of ordinary animals. Bang! D. Shirtian and the Condor King clashed again. Tiger claws and eagle claws exploded with a tyrannical force. D. Shirtian's body was incomparably strong, and with his demon energy, he easily withstood the force of the recoil. However, the Condor King was forcefully sent flying into the air. It let out a high-pitched screech and was about to attack again. D. Shirtian's expression was cold. "I can't waste time here. Let's stop here. I still have to find the white python later. I don't have so much time to waste here." That's right, he was just testing the Condor King's strength. If he wanted to take it down, with his ability, he would not have needed so much time. Now that he was almost done, he did not want to waste any more time. Although D. Shirtian could not fly, he had a powerful ability that allowed him to ignore distance. Hoo! Taking a deep breath, his tiger body trembled. The domineering aura of a tiger spread out in all directions like a tide. His body suddenly became one size larger. Raising his head, the purple mark on his forehead became even more lifelike. It was incomparably terrifying. Roar! A tyrannical tiger roar came out from D. Shirtian's mouth. This roar was like a thunderstorm. Naturally, the tiger roar contained the supreme tiger aura of the king of beasts. When it landed in the ears of the condors in the sky, they only felt a buzzing sound in their heads. Their minds went blank, and their wings did not listen to them. One by one, they fell to the ground. The Condor King, who was originally charging towards Tion, heard this tyrannical tiger roar. His head was also buzzing. He only felt that his body was incomparably heavy, and he fell straight down. Without waiting for Sakura to really use the tiger's roar sound wave, he was shaken down by this shocking and overbearing tiger's roar. Bang! The Condor King's body was huge and was relatively sturdy. When he fell to the ground, he did not die. However, he let out a shocking cry. He was dizzy from the fall and did not immediately get up. Swoosh! Just as it was about to get up, a huge tiger claw pressed down heavily on its back. No matter how it struggled, it was unable to get up from under the tiger claw. Sakura knew that his tiger's roar contained demonic energy. Once the demonic energy was infused into the tiger's roar, the might of the tiger's roar would multiply. This tyrannical tiger's roar, when it entered the ears, no one would be able to block it. The Condor King did not have any demon energy. How could he guard against this move? He was hit on the spot, and his mind went blank from the shock. In the blink of an eye, the tables had turned. In an instant, he was defeated by Tion. Condor King, submit or die. Tion's incomparably cold voice traveled into the Condor King's ears. When the Condor King heard this, his expression became quite dispirited. He looked at the Wolf King standing respectfully at the side. How could he not know that the Wolf King was also the king of the wolf pack? Now, it must have submitted to the Tiger King beside it. Although it was a little dispirited, it also knew that it had already lost, and thoroughly lost. It did not want to die, so when it looked at the black tiger above its head, it finally lowered its proud head and cried out, "My king, I am willing to submit." As soon as it said this, it felt that the tiger claw that was originally pressing on its back had already left in the blink of an eye. The Condor King stood up, but did not fly into the sky. Instead, it respectfully lowered its head towards Tion. Submission was submission. They would not be like some humans, submitting one day and then betraying the next. Good Condor King. Since you have submitted, I will bestow upon you a true name. Condor, the sky is vast. From today onwards you will be called Condor Kong. Every king that submitted to Tion would personally give them a name. Firstly, it was convenient to address them. Secondly, it was to give them a name. It was also a form of kindness. This was because animals did not have a name. It was impossible for them to give it themselves. Now that they were able to get their own name, it was definitely a joyous occasion. As expected, when the Condor King heard that it was given a name, it was also overjoyed. It willingly nodded its head towards Tion 3 times on the ground. It was a sign of submission. After stopping at the foot of the Condor Mountain for a while, and giving the Condor King some instructions, Tion followed the Wolf King to the nearby mountain stream where the white python was hidden. Subduing a king could not be done carelessly. It had to be done personally. The mountain stream was not far away. It was only a few dozen miles away from the Condor Mountain. They passed through the dense forest. He heard the tinkling of water as the mountain spring flowed by, crisp and pleasant to the ear. Before they arrived, Tion could already feel the thick water vapor. However, looking at the sky, they did not stop to rest in the forest. They ran to the territories of the 2 kings and cultivated in the Monkey Valley for a while. Now, the sky was starting to darken. Seeing this situation, Sakura didn't harshly rush to look for the white python. Instead, he stopped at a place near the mountain stream and found an open space to rest, preparing to stay for the night. The Wolf King rushed into the forest and soon came back with 2 tall stags. Tion did not eat much. He quickly finished one and then lay on the ground, cultivating under the moonlight. The climax is coming. Please vote, please vote. There are too few votes. I hope those who still have votes can help. Chapter 33. Using his cultivation technique, he refined the blood in his stomach bit by bit into essence chi that could be absorbed and integrated into his meridians. As his demonic power circulated, it was quickly converted into demonic power, causing it to become even stronger. At the same time, the 108,000 pores all over his body opened at the same time. As he breathed, they opened and closed as if they were also breathing. The essence of the sun and moon around him was quickly absorbed into his body through his meridians and pores. A ball of black demonic aura slowly spread out from his body and enveloped his entire body. In the haze, only a vague figure could be seen. After Wolf King finished eating the other deer, he saw the scene of Sakura cultivating and his eyes revealed traces of reverence and envy. He laid nearby and his eyes were brimming with vigor like lightning as he helped to guard at the side. In its heart, it only knew that its king was very powerful. As long as it roared slightly, it could kill countless powerful humans with its roar. It had all kinds of magical abilities. As long as it was loyal, it would definitely have such abilities in the future. Time quietly passed by like this. In the blink of an eye, day and night alternated. The darkness gradually receded and the sun slowly rose from the east. At this moment, in the small mountain village where the Princess of Chu Yun and the others were staying, a group of people was ready to set off. The Princess of Chu Yun, Li Xiangchen, Zheng Baichuan, Qin Hai, and the maidservant walked into Tiger Hill mountain range together after washing up early in the morning. Senior Brotherly, why didn't the two seniors enter the mountain with us this time? That black tiger is too powerful. I'm afraid that those below the foundation establishment stage can't do anything to it, the Princess of Chu Yun said to Li Xiangchen with a smile as she walked in the forest and looked left and right. That's right. Zheng Baichuan said sarcastically, Brotherly, don't be careless. You have to know that the princess and I suffered greatly last time. None of the accompanying guards survived. They all died under the claws of the black tiger. No matter how strong Brotherly is, you haven't reached the foundation establishment stage. If you encounter the black tiger, I'm afraid, there was no need to say the whole thing. As long as the meaning was expressed, it was enough. Everyone could understand the meaning of this sentence. Faintly, there was a trace of provocation. The moment Li Xiangchen arrived, he attracted almost all of the attention of the Princess of Chu Yun. He was already interested in the princess, so how could he not have any resentment? Now that he had entered the mountain, he did not hide it and spat out his provocative words. Not bad, Black Tiger is very strong. At this time, Qin Hai was also on the same side as Zheng Baichuan. Although it was only a few words, the meaning behind it was that Zheng Baichuan was not as good as Black Tiger. Ha ha! Don't be afraid. Hearing this, Li Xiangchen's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, but he smiled and said, We will walk in front. My second uncle and third uncle are already foundation establishment stage experts. They will follow behind us. As long as we really encounter danger, they will naturally appear. Besides, that black tiger might not be as strong as you all described it to be. Although Dustfall's cultivation base was only at the 7th level of chi refining, he was cherished by the elders of his clan. For the sake of this experiential learning, he was given some treasures to protect himself. Presumably, dealing with Black Tiger shouldn't be a problem. Towards the end, there was a faint arrogance in his expression. Obviously, he was quite confident in his own strength. In fact, he didn't believe that there would be any powerful spirit beasts in the mountains of the secular world. At most, it would be animals that had just been born with spirituality. Senior Brotherly is indeed thoughtful. With two seniors watching behind us, this time, we will definitely be able to capture Black Tiger easily, Princess Chu Yun said sweetly to Li Xiangchen. However, she thought in her heart, Idiot, if I didn't need to borrow the power of your family to subdue Black Tiger, why would I care about two mere foundation establishment stage cultivators? After achieving my goal, see how I will deal with you. Humph. Big brother Qin, do you still remember the way to the place where we met Black Tiger a few days ago? At this time, Princess Chu Yun asked Qin Hai. The Tiger Hill mountain range was very big. If he really wanted to search inch by inch, he was afraid that it would take a very long time. The place where he fought with the Black Tiger just now was a very good clue. Maybe if he was lucky, he would be able to find the Black Tiger there. Therefore, their goal was to find the place where the wolf pack had gathered. Princess, don't worry. Although we fled in a hurry, I have been in the army before. I have already memorized the route along the way. As long as we keep going in this direction, it won't take long for us to reach the place where we fought last time, Qin Hai said confidently. Yes. This time, I will definitely capture that Black Tiger and make him my spirit beast. Princess Chu Yun nodded excitedly. As long as she wanted something, there was nothing she couldn't get. This time, Black Tiger was no exception. As they walked and talked, time passed quickly. Unknowingly, the group had already arrived at the cave where the wolf pack had lived. With this look, their faces involuntarily changed. There was no longer any Black Tiger or wolf pack in front of him. There was only a pile of white bones. It could be seen that these were all human skeletons. The flesh on their bodies had all been bitten off, leaving only white skeletons. There were hundreds of skeletons. Needless to say, they were probably the group of guards and Jianghu people who had been killed by Deshirtian's roar back then. So what if they were dead? Their corpses had long been eaten by the wolf pack. The wolf pack has been led away, and Black Tiger isn't here. Looking at the traces around, I'm afraid that the wolf pack hasn't appeared here for several days. Qin Hai looked around and quickly analyzed. When Jing Baichuan arrived, his eyes widened. He kept looking around carefully, trying to find something. After looking around several times, he still didn't find anything. He finally gave up and thought to himself, that's impossible. At that time, the beast collar clearly fell around here. How could it not be here? Very few people come to the mountain range. It shouldn't have been taken away. Strange. Too strange. What he was looking for was that beast collar. Such a treasure was very rare in the cultivation world. Losing it all of a sudden was like losing a large piece of his flesh. His heart ached terribly. Now that he was here, he wanted to find it and see if he could get it back. When Li Xiangchen heard this, he revealed a smile that he thought was quite charming and said, "Junior Sister Yun, don't panic. Xiangchen has already prepared." As he spoke, he reached out and took out an ancient compass from his storage bag. This compass was very strange. Its appearance was almost similar to the compass used by geomancers on Earth. There were 3 needles inside. The length was different. The longest one was brass in color, the second longest one was silver in color, and the shortest one was gold in color. There were small talismans on these 3 needles. In the middle of the compass there was a sparkling white jade bead. It faintly emitted a white jade light, revealing a strange power. It was inlaid in the compass. It could be said that it was natural, without a single gap. It was as if it was fused together by nature. There were various mysterious patterns engraved all around. It appeared to be quite ancient and extraordinary. Psychic compass? Seeing this ancient compass, Princess Chu Yun and Jing Baichuan couldn't help but change their expressions at the same time. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. Their eyes fell on the compass and never left it. Obviously, they were quite shocked by this compass. Li Xiangchen smiled proudly and said, "Junior Sister Yun, you have good eyesight. This is indeed a psychic compass." As he spoke, he paused and looked at the compass in his hand and said, "This belongs to my second uncle. Third uncle knew that we were going into the mountains to look for Black Tiger, so he specially lent it to me for a period of time. Speaking of which, I also benefited from Junior Sister Yun. If not for you, I'm afraid third uncle might not have handed this compass to me. Speaking of this compass, it was very famous. It was not hard to imagine that if it was an ordinary item, the Princess of Chu Yun and the others would not be so surprised when they saw it. They couldn't help but cry out in surprise. The name of the compass was the psychic compass. The strange thing about this compass was that it was able to help people find items with spiritual energy and spirituality. It could be said that this was a treasure that was specially used to find treasures. It did not have any attack power, but as a rare treasure, it was a treasure that everyone coveted. There was a jade bead in this compass. This bead could be said to be the most important item in this compass. It was called a psychic bead and was very rare. It was said that this psychic bead was formed from the inner core of a spirit beast called the treasure-seeking beast after special refinement. It was born with the ability to sense all kinds of treasures. Combined with the compass, it used 3 needles to point to the target. Among them, the longest copper needle could sense whether there were treasures within a 1-mile radius after it was activated. Beyond this range, it could not sense anything. The second silver needle could sense the spiritual energy within a 10-mile radius. Within this range, there were basically no treasures that could escape its senses. The last golden needle could sense the aura of treasures within a 100-mile radius. Nothing with spirituality could escape its detection. It was extremely magical. In the world of immortal cultivators, the psychic compass was a treasure that everyone dreamed of. With it in hand, whether it was searching for treasures or people, it was extremely easy. There would definitely not be a tragic situation where one encountered a treasure and missed it. Who would not want to obtain such a rare treasure? However, such a rare treasure was naturally not something that could be obtained by just anyone. This was because the psychic bead was rare. Moreover, the refining method of the psychic compass was an ancient secret method. Very few people knew about it now, and it was almost lost. There were very few psychic compasses that were passed down. Those that could obtain them would all treat them as treasures. They would not be easily taken out and shown to others. After all, in the world of immortal cultivators, it was very common to kill for treasures. Chapter 34. This time, Li Xiangchen took it out for 2 reasons. First, this psychic compass was the family treasure of the Li family. It already had the Li family's seal on it. Even greedy people would give them some face when they knew that it was the Li family. After all, the Li family had a senior in the core formation stage. It was comparable to some small and medium-sized sects. Ordinary thieves would not dare to have any ideas about such a family. Secondly, Li Xiangchen knew very well what kind of person the Princess of Chu Yun was, and so did the 2 foundation establishment experts behind her. With her family background, there was no need for her to covet the psychic compass. If that was the case, the Li family might very well hand over the psychic compass to them in order to establish a relationship with the Chu family. Furthermore, this was the secular world. With 2 foundation establishment stage experts protecting her, there was no need to be afraid of any accident. This time, he brought the psychic compass because he wanted to come out for training. He wanted to see if he could find some spiritual items with spiritual energy along the way, and find some medicinal herbs. If he was lucky, he might even find a small spiritual mine. If that was the case, he would really be very lucky. With a spiritual mine, it would be enough to support a family for hundreds of years. Originally, the psychic compass was with the 2 foundation establishment stage experts. After knowing that they were going to enter the mountain, the 2 of them discussed and temporarily handed the compass to Li Xiangchen. Now that he took it out, he could show off in front of the Princess of Chu Yun. Naturally, it was necessary for him to take it out. That's great. With the psychic compass, it will be easy to find that black tiger. The Princess of Chu Yun was clearly aware of the magical power of this treasure. She couldn't help but be in high spirit. She clenched her small fists and said excitedly, "Junior Sister Yun, please wait. To activate the compass, you need a high-grade spiritual stone. As Li Xiangchen spoke, he reached out and put it into his storage bag. When he took it back, there was a crimson crystal half the size of a fist in his hand. As soon as the crystal appeared, a strong fire-type spiritual qi spread out from it. The crimson light kept flowing back and forth on the crystal. It was crystal clear like a gem. A high-grade fire spiritual stone? Jing Baichuan let out a cry of surprise as he stared at the crystal. One had to know that in the immortal cultivation world, spirit stones had different attributes and grades. Among them, the 5 most common elements were metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Other than these, there were also thunder spirit stones, ice spirit stones, and other spirit stones that were derived from the 5 elements. As for the grades of spirit stones, from low to high they were low grade, middle grade, high grade, and top grade. Among them, low-grade spirit stones were the most common. It was the unit used for trading in the immortal cultivation world. The amount used for trading had always been based on low-grade spirit stones. For example, a talisman required 1 spirit stone, and the 1 spirit stone here was a low-grade spirit stone. 100 low-grade spirit stones could only be exchanged for 1 mid-grade spirit stone. And so on. Every increase in grade required 100 times more than the previous one to match. In the immortal cultivation world, low-grade spirit stones were very common. However, mid-grade spirit stones were much rarer than low-grade spirit stones. Even a spirit stone mine might not be able to dig out a few high-grade spirit stones. They were especially precious. As for the top grade, it was impossible to find it in a spirit stone mine unless it was a large one. The top-grade spirit stone was a type of spirit stone that everyone coveted. The spirit qi contained in it was not only pure, but also extremely large. The most precious thing was that, after the spirit qi inside was absorbed, it could automatically absorb the spirit qi of heaven and earth to recover. This meant that the top-grade spirit stone could be used repeatedly. It was not like other spirit stones, which would be wasted as soon as the spirit qi was absorbed. It could be imagined that as long as there was a top-grade spirit stone, it was equivalent to carrying an endless supply of spirit stones. In the future, unless there were any accidents, there would be no need to worry about spirit stones. Although it was not a top-grade spirit stone, the high-grade spirit stone that Li Xiangchen took out was extremely rare. After countless years of mining, most of the spirit stones had been exhausted. Ordinary people might not even be able to take a look at a high-grade spirit stone. Li Xiangchen smiled indifferently, took the spirit stone in his hand, and carefully placed it in a groove at the bottom of the compass. The spirit stone was perfectly embedded in the compass. At this moment, a crimson-red light flashed across the compass. Buzz! With a crisp sound, the psychic compass in Li Xiangchen's hand was seen at this moment. At this moment, the psychic compass in Li Xiangchen's hand was seen exuding a trace of spiritual power. The needle in the compass began to flicker with spiritual light, and it began to rotate in circles. However, only 2 of the 3 needles in the compass moved. They were the copper needle and the silver needle. To use the psychic compass, one must be supported by spirit stones. A mid-grade spirit stone could support the psychic compass to use the first psychic needle to search for things with spirit qi within a mile of the compass. A high-grade spirit stone could use the second psychic needle. The second psychic needle could search within a radius of 10 miles. As for the third psychic needle, it required a top-grade spirit stone. Buzz! The psychic compass could now search for everything within a radius of 10 miles. However, the 2 moving needles continued to rotate in the compass without any signs of stopping. This meant that there was nothing in this area that was worthy of the psychic compass's attention. That's great. With the psychic compass, as long as we walk faster, it won't take long for us to find the whereabouts of Black Tiger. The Princess of Chu Yun blinked, her eyes filled with excitement. With the guidance of the psychic compass, the group once again walked through the forest. Along the way they found many ginseng, sealwort, and the like. Although they were not very old, it was an unexpected gain. Vaguely, they began to slowly move towards the south. Coincidentally, the place where Sakura was at right now was also the south side of Tiger Hill mountain range. The sound of splashing water reverberated in the air. Looking in the direction of the sound, a long mountain stream appeared in front of them. This mountain stream was not simple. It was as if a complete piece of land had suddenly been split into two by an axe. In the middle was an empty crack, and spring water from the mountain flowed in, naturally forming a long mountain stream. Above the mountain stream, there was a faint layer of miasma that floated up and down in the air. When the mountain wind blew, it could only cause the miasma to roll, but there was no way to blow it away. It was quite strange. This miasma was like the morning fog. In this mountain forest, if one did not look carefully, they would think that it was water vapor that rose up from below. If one did not pay attention and barged in, one might be buried in this miasma. If one listened carefully, one could vaguely hear a strange hissing sound that was covered by the sound of water. At this moment, in front of the mountain stream, a huge black tiger and a snow-white wild wolf were silently watching the scene in the mountain stream. "My king, this is the mountain stream where the white python live. There are many poisonous snakes in the mountain stream. Many of my subordinates were bitten to death by the poisonous snakes when they came close. When they entered the mountain stream, they would also inexplicably fall down. My king, you must be careful." Naturally, this was Tian and Wolf King Baiwe. Seeing this mountain stream, Wolf King Baiwe could not help but have a strange look in his eyes. The aura here was very cold. If Tian did not want to come, he would not be willing to stay here. In other words, the white python is in the mountain stream. Tian raised his eyes to look at the surrounding miasma. The miasma was not too thick. It was completely formed by the poisonous liquid secreted by the snakes after living here for a long time. For ordinary animals, it was fatal, but for Tian, it was not very effective. If he really wanted to disperse the miasma, he only needed to roar and use sound waves to disperse the miasma. "Baiwe, go and lure the white python out. I will naturally be able to subdue it." At this point, Tian was not in a hurry. In this mountain range, this was the last stop. As long as he could subdue the white python, he could completely abandon Tiger Hill mountain range and leave this mountain range. For the time being, he could temporarily avoid the impending danger. Evacuating was a plan he had long planned. He had seen through humans very clearly. If he beat up the younger one, the older one would come out. If that didn't work, even the old ancestors might jump out. In the eyes of humans, they were aliens. There was no morality to speak of. If one couldn't beat them, 2, 3, or even countless people would immediately come out to besiege them. He knew his own strength best. Compared to the immortal cultivators, he was still too weak. The things he knew were too little. Just talking about magic, he did not understand at all. If he fought with them, he would definitely suffer a great loss. Therefore, now was definitely not the time to have too big of a conflict with the immortal cultivators. He could not be too high-profile. If he entered the eyes of some people, it would really cause an unstoppable disaster. "King, Baiwe will do it right away." When the Wolf King heard this, his eyes lit up with excitement. It was just a provocation. Anyway, with the king by his side, what was there to be afraid of? Swoosh! Baiwe dashed forward and quickly arrived at the mouth of the mountain stream. Raising its head high, the Wolf King let out a ferocious howl. A woo! The wolf howl covered the entire mountain stream. Hiss! The provocation in the wolf howl was no doubt like poking a hornet's nest. Before the howl stopped, a loud roar suddenly rose from the mountain stream. Bang! All of a sudden, the water in the mountain stream exploded, and a slender, snow-white figure leaped out from the water. The speed of this white figure was extremely fast, and with the momentum, it charged straight for Wolf King Baiwe. 2 lantern-sized eyes were fixed on by you like lightning bolt. No matter if it was Wolf King or Sakura, they weren't ordinary animals. Their vision was naturally incomparably sharp. Others might not be able to see clearly, but in their eyes they could clearly see that in midair there was a snow-white python that was no less than 10 meters long and as thick as a water bucket. Chapter 35. Awoo! The Wolf King saw that the white python did not retreat. Instead, it let out a deafening howl. Its body flashed to the side as fast as lightning, dodging the white python's thunderous attack. Then, its wolf claws unceremoniously clawed at the white python's body. Bang! Bayu's wolf claws were incredibly sharp, but when they landed on the white python's body, they couldn't penetrate it. A layer of snow-white snake scales blocked the wolf claws. The snake scales were slippery, and Bayu's attack felt like it had landed on cotton. The power of the attack was diverted to other places. Hiss! The white python's eyes revealed a look of mockery as it let out a roar. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the Wolf King. That mouth was quite huge. Even an adult would be easily swallowed in one bite. Not to mention the Wolf King, who was at a disadvantage in terms of size. However, as a king, the Wolf King's greatest advantage was his speed. His feet were very fast, and in a small space, he quickly dodged left and right. From time to time, he would launch 1 or 2 attacks. Unfortunately, the scales on the white python's body were too strong, and it was impossible for him to break through. Baiue, stand down. I'll do it. Sakura only watched from the side for a short while and knew that although Baiu had an extraordinary advantage in speed, he couldn't do anything to the white python. If they continued to fight, there wouldn't be much progress. Sakura directly berated him. Awoo! Hearing this, the Wolf King obediently attacked the white python and quickly dodged. It stood behind Deshirtian. This is the Snake Valley, this is my territory. What are you doing here? Hurry up and leave, otherwise this lady will eat you. The white python's eyes were as bright as candlelight. When she came out, she had already seen Deshirtian. Now, she knew that he was the leader of the two. It had to be said that Deshirtian's body emitted a thick tiger's aura, which was endless deterrence to any beast. This king has come this time to make you submit to me and become my subordinate, Deshirtian said without hiding anything. Hiss! As soon as the white python heard that, her eyes immediately shot out a sharp ray of light as she stared unwaveringly at Sakura. The aura on her body suddenly became fierce as she said, "If you want to subdue this lady, you have to defeat me first. If I defeat you, I will eat you in one bite." Whoosh! After saying this, the white python pushed herself on the ground and instantly bounced up. She quickly charged towards Deshirtian and spat a mouthful of green poison. A strong stench was emitted from the poisonous fog, making people feel nauseous and faint just by smelling it. It was extremely poisonous. Even if an elephant was in the face of this poisonous poison, it would still. Awoo! Deshirtian roared and his body shook. Immediately, black demon chi was spat out from the countless pores on his body. It quickly condensed around his body, forming a black demon chi that covered his whole body. When it collided with the green poison, a series of ear-piercing chi-chi sounds were constantly emitted from the middle. Although the green poison was strong, it still could not break through the defense of the demon chi. This was Deshirtian's only defense. No matter how strong the white python's poison was, after all, it had not stepped on the path of immortal cultivation. It still could not do anything to Deshirtian. However, this also showed that as a king, everyone had their own terrifying ultimate skills. If I want to subdue the white python, I can only use the tiger roar soundwave. I have too few offensive methods now. Almost in an instant, Sakura realized that if he wanted to end this fight as quickly as possible, he could only use his trump card, the Tiger Roar sound wave, to have this possibility. At this moment, he also realized that his offensive methods were too lacking. He must work harder in this area in the future. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would be at a disadvantage. Huff! Tirtian used his demon chi to block the green poison. He took a deep breath in front of him. With this breath, a whirlpool seemed to appear in front of him, sucking in a large amount of air into his stomach. The majestic tiger aura on his body rose like a tide. His body also seemed to grow by a large circle in an instant. His entire body showed the supreme dominance of the king of beasts. At this moment, there was a commotion in the forest behind him. Quick, it's here. The psychic compass is moving. The psychic needle is pointing in this direction. Everyone, hurry up. I heard a wolf howl. When I saw the black tiger earlier, it was with the pack of wolves. If we find the wolves, we can find the black tiger. A burst of excited chatter came from the forest. Moreover, the people came very quickly. In just a few breaths, they saw that in the forest behind them, the grass and trees shook violently. A few figures passed through the forest and directly appeared in front of the mountain stream. Senior Brotherly, it's the black tiger. It's this black tiger. It's not just the black tiger. There's also a huge white python. This wolf also has spirituality. Wow, there are actually 3 spirit beasts here. The people who came out were none other than Princess Chu Yun and the others. With the psychic compass in hand, it was indeed very convenient to find the target. Under the guidance of the compass, the group quickly shuttled through the forest. Finally, when they were close to the place, the compass had a strong reaction. 2 needles pointed in this direction at the same time. When they heard the long howl of the wolf, they immediately rushed here as fast as they could. At a glance, the harvest was not small. Not only did they find the black tiger, but they also found 2 more spirit beasts. For a moment, Princess Chu Yun could not help but cry out in excitement. It's really that black tiger. Zheng Baichuan and Qin Hai had a very deep impression of Tirtian. With just a glance, they recognized that the black tiger in front of them was definitely the one they encountered before. Their expressions changed immediately. When Li Xiangchen heard this, he immediately smiled and said, "Junior Sister Yun, watch here first. Watch me subdue this black tiger for Junior Sister as a gift." After saying that, his hands immediately moved and he quickly formed a hand seal. Mystic Ice Technique. With a soft shout, a cloud of white cold air appeared out of thin air above Tirtian's head. As soon as this cold air formed, it directly pounced on Tirtian. One could clearly feel that the moment this cold air appeared, the temperature of the surrounding air instantly dropped by a lot. It became cold and gloomy. White Python, let's put our matter aside for now. Wait for me to send these foreign cultivators away before we continue. As soon as Princess Chu Yun and the others appeared, Tirtian immediately understood why they were here. He was not in the mood to continue fighting with the white python. He hurriedly said to the white python in the beast language, "Boom!" Feeling the shocking cold air above his head, Tirtian was once again extremely curious about the various Dharma spells in the immortal cultivation world. However, now was not the time to think about this. He stretched out his tiger claw and swiped it in front of him. In an instant, demonic power spewed out from his claw and quickly formed a pitch-black tiger claw. Under his control, he blasted the claw towards the cold air above his head. This tiger claw collided with the cold air. Immediately, a terrifying cold force spewed out from the cold air. With a violent tumble, the cold force mysteriously froze the tiger claw formed by demonic power, forming a layer of mystic ice on the outside. Smack! With a soft sound, it landed on the ground. The tiger claw was like a piece of ice, and was not smashed into pieces. However, the power of the mystic ice technique had been absorbed by the tiger claw and was considered broken. What a black tiger! It is indeed strange. Seeing that the black tiger could actually use demonic power to attack, even Li Xiangchen, who did not believe that there was anything strange about the black tiger, changed his expression at this moment. He finally understood why Princess Chu Yun and the others kept saying that the black tiger was extremely powerful. Wind blade technique. Although he was surprised, he did not stop attacking. A wind blade flew out and attacked. Tian did not dodge the wind blade and allowed it to hit his body. It was quickly blocked by the demonic aura outside his body and did not cause him any harm. Roar! In the midst of a low and deep tiger roar, Sakra's tiger eyes had an ice-cold expression. His two hind legs fiercely stomped on the ground. Instantly, his entire body soared into the sky, drawing a series of pitch-black afterimages in the air. He ferociously pounced on Li Xiangchen. With this pounce, the domineering aura of the king of beasts surged out wildly. The strong tiger's aura pressed heavily on Li Xiangchen's body. The cultivation that had already penetrated all the meridians in his body was completely displayed at this moment. The pressure of a powerhouse, the natural domineering aura of the king of beasts, the purple king mark on his forehead was like a ball of fire, pulsing violently. The intimidating aura was suddenly exerted on his body. Ah! Who was Li Xiangchen? Although he was the young master of a first-class family, his cultivation was only at the 7th level of qi refinement. How could he compare to Tian? He had very little experience in actual combat. This time, he came out to train. When he saw Tian's domineering and ferocious pounce, the usual gentleness on his face disappeared, and he became extremely frightened. Iron vine, bind. At this moment, a clear and delicate voice rang out. As the voice fell, a strange seed flew out from the hands of the princess of the Chu Yun Empire and landed in front of Li Xiangchen. The seed landed on the ground and took root. It sprouted and grew at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, a vine as thick as an arm grew wildly from the ground. This vine was densely packed with iron thorns. It looked extremely ferocious. As soon as it appeared, it swept towards Tian. It was as nimble as a snake. Roar! Indra roared in a low voice as the black demonic qi around him grew even denser, enveloping his entire body. He also saw that vine, but he didn't care about it immediately. He could clearly see that there were quite a few people here. If he wanted to win, he had to kill one of them with a thunderous momentum right from the start. This was the best opportunity. Chapter 36. Seeing the princess of Chu Yun and her entourage, Tian understood that the hidden danger after letting these people escape had finally erupted. It was just as he had thought. If one person could not win, he would immediately bring more people and stronger people over. Although he had been mentally prepared for this, however, when he really experienced it, his heart was cold as steel. Although he was a human in his previous life, he was a demon in this life. He was destined to stand on the opposite side of humans, and there was no possibility of peaceful coexistence. When they met, there was only one word: kill. He could not show mercy. If he wanted to fight, he had to kill. Completely exterminate. Otherwise, it would bring about an even greater crisis like today. This also strengthened his resolve. It was fine if he did not make a move, but if he did, he would consign the other party to eternal damnation. The demon aura outside his body was like the spiritual energy protection of immortal cultivators and the true Kong protection of martial artists. It had extremely strong defensive power. When he saw Li Xiangchen stunned for a moment by his power, he realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he grasped this opportunity, he could kill one of these immortal cultivators in one fell swoop. Therefore, when he faced the long iron vine that swept towards him, he gritted his teeth and did not pay attention to it immediately. Instead, he strengthened the demon aura outside his body and protected his entire body. He was determined to kill Li Xiangchen in one fell swoop. Bang! The iron vine glowed with a dark light. Like a long whip, it lashed heavily at Di Shirtian's waist. However, it did not really land on his body. It was blocked by the layer of black demon aura outside his body. However, the power contained in the vine also whipped the demon aura violently, showing signs of dissipating. Bind! The princess of Chuyun was also alert. When she saw that the demon aura was not blown away, she immediately changed the spell. The originally straight vine immediately coiled around Di Shirtian's waist like a spirit snake. Moreover, it coiled tighter and tighter. The force of the contraction caused the demon aura outside his body to begin to fluctuate violently. It was as if it could be destroyed at any moment. However, Sakura didn't care about this. Although his body was bound by the rattan, the strength of his pounce was incomparably ferocious. Just relying on the strength of the iron rattan alone, it wasn't enough to bind him. A pitch-black tiger claw carried a sharp aura, faintly emitting a pitch-black luster. It appeared above Li Xiangqun's head. If this claw landed, Li Xiangqun's head would immediately be smashed into mush. He was about to die in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Di Shirtian's might was unparalleled. The domineering aura of the king of beasts enveloped the world. Evil creature, you dare! Just as Li Xiangqun was about to lose his life under the tiger claw, a loud roar suddenly came from the forest. That voice was filled with a kind of shocking anger. A powerful aura followed the voice and swept through the empty area where the fierce battle was taking place. A fiery red flowing light broke through the air and instantly appeared in front of the tiger claw that Sakura was about to land on Li Xiangqun's head. Bang! That red light came too fast. Sakura didn't even have time to see it clearly before it collided with it. This contact made him shocked in his heart, because he felt that his tiger claw seemed to have landed on a piece of iron that was already branded red. Not only did it not shatter it, but he also felt that there was a flame coming out from the object in front of him, burning his tiger claw. Humph! No matter who it is, no one can stop me from killing today. Di Shirtian was not discouraged by the obstruction. Instead, his eyes became colder and colder. The tiger claw in front of him was blocked, but the other tiger claw did not hesitate. In an instant, a pitch-black shadow flashed in front of Li Xiangqun's neck. Pooh! With a crisp sound, Li Xiangqun's head was instantly thrown away like a rubber ball. It fell to the ground with a thud and rolled a few times. From his wide-open eyes, one could see the horror in them. A pillar of blood spurted out from his neck. It was extremely high. Bang! The stiff and headless corpse fell straight to the ground. Li Xiangqun was a cultivator, but he was merely a cultivator at the 7th stage of qi refining. He had not even reached the late stage of qi refining, let alone condense a nascent soul. Once the body was destroyed, it was the same as death. No one could live on after losing their head, unless they were old monsters who had reached the nascent soul stage. Only then would they be able to leave their body with their nascent soul and be reborn through possession. Unfortunately, Li Xiangqun was clearly not a nascent soul stage cultivator. With a wave of his tiger claw, he died on the spot. Ah! How dare you kill Xiangqun? I want your life! Two sorrowful and angry roars soared into the sky. Looking in the direction of the roars, they saw two middle-aged men flying through the air at high speed. Seeing the scene of Li Xiangqun's death, he felt as if his liver and guts were being torn apart, and his eyes were wide open in anger. Forming a seal with their hands, a green light flew out from one of their hands. It turned into a stream of light and bombarded Di Shirtian. At the same time, the red light that collided with the tiger claw quickly flew up and slashed at Di Shirtian's neck. Roar! Di Shirtian did not relax in the slightest after killing Li Xiangqun. When he heard the two voices, he already knew that two cultivators much stronger than him had appeared. If he was not mistaken, they should be cultivators of the foundation building stage. Looking closely, the green light wrapped around a green wooden ruler. Talismans flickered in the wooden ruler. The ruler swung down at Li Xiangqun's head. The red light wrapped around a 3 to 4 inch long crimson dagger. It was the most common magic weapon in the hands of cultivators. It was a fire attribute flying dagger. Red flames that were several inches long shot out. The blazing heat caused the surrounding area to become scorching hot. If this dagger were to hit Li Xiangqun's neck, it would be no laughing matter. Swish! In this split second, Sakra didn't pay attention to the green ruler and flying sword that were about to bombard him. Instead, he raised his tiger claw and poured his demon power into it before waving it downward. In an instant, a sharp claw mark flashed in midair and landed on the iron vine that was binding him. The tiger claw contained demonic power. With the infusion of demonic power, the tiger claw became even more invincible. Although it encountered quite a number of obstructions, it was still able to break apart the thick iron vine with a single claw. Pah! After escaping from the binding of the vines, he finally landed on the ground. However, after landing, Di Tian's pair of tiger-like eyes became even sharper and colder. The two attacks came too quickly and didn't give him much time. One attacked his head, and the other was even fiercer and wanted to chop off his head. At this moment, between the two attacks, he could only resist one of them. The remaining one would definitely fall on his body. Ayo! Almost without thinking, it let out a low and domineering tiger roar. It raised a tiger claw with lightning speed and clawed at the scarlet flying sword that was slashing towards it. The powerful demonic power directly left the tiger claw and formed a pitch-black tiger claw in the air that was completely composed of demonic power. Faintly emitting a black demon aura, it quickly met the flying dagger. At the same time, the tiger claw also followed closely behind. Bang! The tiger claw formed by demon power bombarded the flying dagger in the air. Suddenly, it could be seen that the red light in the flying dagger burst out and bombarded the tiger claw. It only lasted for a few breaths, and the sharp sword light shattered the tiger claw. The flying dagger did not stop and collided with Di Tian's tiger claw again. Dang! Sakra's physical body was constantly changing. During this period of time, under the nourishment of demonic energy, it was almost constantly strengthening. Even if ordinary swords and sabers were to cut his body, they wouldn't be able to cut the slightest bit of his skin. Now, with the infusion of demonic energy, the tiger claws were as tough as iron and stone, emitting a dark light. When the two collided, it actually gave off a clear sound of metal and stone colliding. The sharp sword light was unable to break the tiger claw. Bang! However, at this moment, the green wooden ruler above his head abruptly slapped on the head of the Sakra. The demon aura outside his body rolled violently. In the wooden ruler, the green light burst out and broke the demon aura defense in one fell swoop, heavily smashing the head. Ayo! Di Tian only felt his head sink, as if he was struck by lightning. The power contained in the green ruler smashed Di Tian 3 feet away on the spot. Bastard, you killed my nephew. Today, I will skin you alive and pull out your tendons. An angry roar came from the mouth of the older middle-aged man. Anger rushed to his head. These two people were Li Xiangqun's two elders. Originally, they followed behind and didn't pay too much attention to it. They also thought that it was just a little spiritual beast, and even if they couldn't take it down, there wouldn't be too much danger. Who would have thought that Sakra was actually so fierce? Once he made a move, it was simply like a thunderbolt. They did not have time to stop him. In the blink of an eye, he killed Li Xiangqun in front of their eyes. Great humiliation, great humiliation! Anger, incomparable anger. At this moment, they did not care about anything else. They directly launched a fierce attack on the black tiger, wanting to thoroughly kill it. Seeing that Di Tian was able to block their attack, how could they let go? With a thought, the green ruler and flying sword once again bombarded Di Tian with lightning speed. This is the power of a foundation establishment master. What a domineering power! If not for my physical body, Who knows how many times stronger than before, I would have been directly smashed to death by that ruler. No, I cannot fight with them like this anymore. My attack methods are too few, there is no way I can deal with such a strong master. Only the sound wave of the tiger's roar can reverse the situation. Tian was hit by the terrible bombardment and rolled several feet away, but he did not faint. He quickly stood up, shook his somewhat dizzy head, and recovered his clarity. His mind turned a little, and he understood that fighting with a Foundation establishment master was not something he could deal with at the moment. Without any hesitation, he launched his strongest attack. Chapter 37. Whoosh! Tian's eyes were filled with endless coldness. He took a deep breath, and in an instant, his body expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he had doubled in size. His entire body exuded an extremely dense tiger aura. The majestic aura of the king of beasts soared into the sky and spread out in all directions like a tidal wave, completely enveloping the entire area. The purple king pattern on his forehead was like a blazing flame, dancing wildly and lifelike. It looked as if it would fly out of his body at any time. An intimidating force was spewing out from the king pattern. Oh no, Black Tiger is going to use that domineering tiger roar technique again. Senior Brother Jing, Big Brother Qin, quickly seal off your 6 senses. I will use the pearl to support the defensive light shield. Otherwise, we will be killed by this tiger roar. Seeing the sudden change in Black Tiger, the princess of Chu Yun's face instantly turned pale. She recalled the domineering tiger roar that she had experienced a few days ago and knew what it meant. She quickly warned them. At the same time, she took out the strange green pearl. Her jade-like hands quickly formed a strange seal and struck it into the pearl. Suddenly, the pearl trembled and burst out with a layer of green light shield. It flew above the princess of Chu Yun's head and covered Jing Baichuan and the others under the light shield. Jing Baichuan and the others had also experienced the situation at that time. Their expressions changed, and they quickly approached the princess of Chu Yun. As soon as they entered the light shield, they saw that the situation outside had changed. Roar! All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in the blink of an eye. Tian took a deep breath, and the demonic power in his body circulated rapidly. He roared into the sky, and a domineering tiger roar that shook the sky came out of his mouth. Bang, bang, bang! This tiger roar was all-pervasive, and its power was immeasurable. The surrounding trees exploded in the loud tiger roar, and the ground under their feet shook violently. A fierce gale rose, as circles of pitch-black sound waves spread out in all directions like tidewater. The space was like the sea, and the sound waves were like the waves on the sea. One wave after another appeared as if it was real. Ah! What kind of sound wave is this? It's so domineering. My head! When the tiger roared, the 2 middle-aged men who were standing in the air were not prepared for it. They only felt as if a huge thunderbolt had suddenly exploded in their minds. In their minds there was a buzzing sound. Their minds trembled violently, and they had a splitting headache. How could they still stand in the air? Their bodies swayed and fell down. This was the overbearing and terrifying aspect of the sound wave technique. It was simply all-pervasive. Not to mention, they were completely unguarded. They were directly hit by it. But before the green ruler and flying sword even hit Sakra's body, they collided with the sound waves that seemed to have substance. Rings of sound waves collided with them and immediately produced a terrifying power, bombarding the 2 magic weapons again and again. However, the green ruler and flying sword were the furious attacks of 2 Foundation establishment experts and contained a valiant power. Although the sound waves would weaken the power of the magic treasures with every inch they penetrated, they still attacked Tian with unwavering determination. However, the sound waves covered the sky, passed through the 2 magic treasures, and quickly rushed toward the two middle-aged men who had been shaken down. If they were hit by the sound waves, even if they were in the Foundation establishment realm, their bodies would be shattered in an instant. Vajra Talisman! Earth Shield Talisman! Although their minds were shaken by the domineering tiger roar, their rich combat experience allowed them to immediately sense the impending danger. They quickly took out a few talismans and slapped them on their bodies. Swoosh! They saw it immediately. Their bodies suddenly shone with golden light, as if they had turned into golden arhats. In front of them, several thick yellow shields appeared. Bang, bang, bang! By the time they finished doing that, the sound waves had already arrived. Rings of pitch-black sound waves bombarded the earth shields unceasingly. In an instant, those earth shields were actually shattered by the sound waves. The sound waves continued on without end. Like a tide, they enveloped the two of them. The pitch-black sound waves constantly bombarded the golden light outside the two men's bodies. Under the domineering sound waves of the tiger roar, the golden light outside the two men's bodies shook violently. It trembled as if it would be destroyed at any time. Roar! On the other side, the green ruler and flying sword had already arrived in front of Di-Shirtion. The tiger roar could not be stopped. Di-Shirtion looked coldly at the two magic treasures and quickly tilted his head to the side. Suddenly, the green ruler hit the tiger's back heavily. His body swayed, and the flying sword that was going to pierce his throat was blocked by his front leg. Bang! Puff! In the dull roar, Di-Shirtion's body sank, and a stream of bright red blood flowed out of the tiger's mouth. The sword was quite sharp, and it broke through the defense of his body. Even his strong body could not resist it, and the sword stabbed into his left front leg. Roar! The injured Di-Shirtion not only did not stop the tiger roar, but there was a trace of madness in his eyes. The tiger roar became more powerful and domineering. I can't give up. If I give up today, I will die. I don't want to die, so I must kill these people in front of me. The sound waves could not be stopped. They must all be shaken to death. Bang, bang, bang! Circles of pitch-black sound waves, like a tide, surged and attacked everyone wave after wave. With a few crisp cracking sounds, the golden light outside the two middle-aged men finally could not withstand the attack of the sound waves and shattered. The powerful sound waves broke the golden light and directly bombarded the two men. Puff! Puff! Let's go, this black tiger is going to turn into a demon beast. The sound waves of the tiger roar are too domineering, and we don't have any Dharma artifacts to restrain them. Let's go back to the family and find someone. Both of them spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. There were some small pieces of their internal organs mixed in the blood. Their bodies felt as if they had been struck by lightning. Looking at the endless sound waves that covered the sky and covered the earth, horror appeared on their faces. With determination in their eyes, they turned around and fled without thinking, not staying for a moment. They did not even care about the Dharma artifacts they used to attack. They fled as fast as they could. Let's go quickly too. When the Princess of Chu Yun saw that the two Foundation establishment cultivators were about to be defeated by the overwhelming sound waves, her expression changed drastically. She hurriedly shouted and slapped a divine travel talisman on her body, wanting to escape like last time. Roar! Where are you going? A cold light flashed in Sakra's eyes. How could he let these people escape again? With a roar, he didn't care that he had already suffered a heavy injury. His two legs fiercely kicked at the back and his huge body soared into the sky. A series of afterimages were left behind. The huge tiger claw landed on the green light screen. Bang! The green light screen trembled violently under the claw, and endless sound waves crashed around it. Suddenly, the light screen dimmed, and it looked like it would be destroyed at any time. Explode! At this moment, the Princess of Chu Yun showed an astonishing calmness. She decisively formed a seal and shouted. Suddenly, A shocking spiritual light burst out from the green pearl, and a huge amount of power gushed out from the pearl. With a loud boom, it directly exploded. Roar! The pearl exploded, and a ball of green light emerged. At an unbelievable speed, it hit Tion heavily. The terrifying power sent Tion's huge body flying out on the spot. Run! Princess Chu Yun did not even think about it. She pulled the maidservant behind her, and her petite body ran out of the mountain range at lightning speed. Zheng Baichuan and Qin Hai also wanted to escape. Zheng Baichuan was an immortal cultivator, so he could activate the divine travel talisman faster. However, just as Qin Hai was about to activate it, a gust of wind came from behind. The hair on his back stood up and his face turned pale. Puff! A pitch-black tiger claw pierced through his chest from behind. Blood spurted out from the huge hole. His running footsteps came to an abrupt halt. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he collapsed to the ground. Blood stained the ground. It was the moment when Sakura was sent flying. He used his demon power to condense a tiger claw. With a thunderous momentum, he instantly killed another person. Bang! Tion landed heavily on the ground, and blood spurted out of his mouth like an arrow. Under the terrifying impact of the pearl's explosion, he was severely injured. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he became much more dispirited. He could feel intense pain all over his body. This series of battles could be said to have happened in the blink of an eye. Life and death were determined in the blink of an eye. Facing the immortal cultivator's attacks, he relied on the overbearing and powerful sound waves of the tiger's roar to fight with the immortal cultivators until both sides suffered. It was tragic. Roar! Immortal cultivators were indeed not simple. Two foundation establishment cultivators. If not for my strong physical body and my demonic power breaking through to the third level, I would have been the one to die. Roar! With a low roar, he opened his mouth and pulled out the flying sword that was still stuck in his leg. Looking at the two cold corpses on the ground, his sharp gaze fell on the waist of the immortal cultivator named Li Xiangchen. A small yellow bag appeared in front of him. Seeing it, Tion's eyes burst out a ball of light. That bag should be the storage bag of the immortal cultivators. He had seen those immortal cultivators take out things from the bag several times. With his wisdom, how could he not guess that the bag should be the storage bag that he had heard of in his previous life that could store a large number of items? This was the most practical treasure. Struggling to stand up from the ground, he quickly came to the corpse and bit off the bag from the corpse's waist. Then he found the flying sword and the green ruler. Together, he wrapped them in a piece of clothing. Chapter 38. My King. Just when Sakura was wrapping up all those things that he thought were useful in a piece of clothing, Wolf King Baiyu scuttled out from the side and quickly came to his front, respectfully with a kind of boundless reverence. It wasn't that he didn't see the intense battle from before, but he couldn't intervene at all. If he had gone in, he would have been killed instantly. Therefore, even though he was anxious, he could only hide at the side and watch the battle in front of him. Seeing his king's valiant strength in the midst of battle, at the same time, he was filled with reverence. At the same time, he was also filled with a thirst for power. He was also looking forward to the day when he would possess such great power and be able to help his king. It would not be like now, where he could only watch and do nothing. Baiyu, those cultivators fought with me just now. There are still a few powerful ones that I didn't kill. After they escaped, they will definitely call for more powerful cultivators. There will be great danger in Tiger Hill mountain range soon. Hurry back to your wolf clan and inform your people to prepare for migration. Tomorrow when the sun rises, it will be the day of migration. Sakura took a deep breath. There was only less than half of the demon power left in his body. The previous fierce battle, although it was only a short moment, it consumed a huge amount of demon power. The tiger roar sound wave, using demon power to condense the tiger claw. All of these required a huge amount of demon power. If it wasn't for the fact that he had completely connected all the meridians in his body, he would have collapsed to the ground and would never be able to get up again. Yes, my king. The Wolf King Bayou's eyes flashed and he agreed without hesitation. Since he had already submitted to Di-Shirtian, he had to follow his orders. Animals were often more loyal than humans. Send your people to the Snake Valley and inform the Monkey King Yuan Tian and the Eagle King Ing Kong. Tell them to prepare everything by tomorrow. Di-Shirtian quickly ordered. The Wolf King listened attentively and nodded. Hiss! At this time, in the mountain stream, in the midst of a huge roar, a huge white python was coiled at the entrance of the mountain stream. In its two big eyes, there was a trace of complicated expression, and its gaze towards Sakura had a trace of obvious reverence. She had seen the battle with her own eyes. She knew very well that if Di-Shirtian had used such strength to fight with her, she would have been killed in a few moves. This was absolute strength. White Python, are you willing to submit to me? If you don't, I won't force you. When Sakura heard the noise, he turned his head around and looked at the huge body of the white python. At this time, although he still had the strength to subdue her, but at this time, he was already severely injured. If he didn't hurry back to recuperate and recover, it would affect his own injuries and make them worse. King, I am willing to submit. The white python was silent for a while, and then unexpectedly, she lowered her head towards Di-Shirtian. She said that she was submitting to him. She thought to herself, following a king like him will definitely be more interesting than staying in this mountain stream. Maybe I will be as powerful as a king in the future. After witnessing Di-Shirtian's ability, the white python's desire for power unconsciously emerged. He was also very clear that he was definitely not Di-Shirtian's opponent. Perhaps this time submission would bring him a different kind of life. Di-Shirtian's eyes flashed. He guessed that the white python must have seen his previous battle. That was why she submitted so easily. However, he didn't have much time to think about other things. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, he didn't think too much about it. He nodded and said, White Python, since you have decided to submit to me, I will not treat you unfairly. I will now bestow you a name. He paused and looked at the white python. You are white all over and you have the characteristics of a mother. Why don't you be called by Susu? Susu. By Susu. Hearing that, the white python mumbled a few times. Her eyes were filled with joy. She kowtowed 3 times on the ground and said, Thank you, my king, for bestowing this subordinate with a name. From today onwards, I will have a name too. I will be called by Susu. Judging from her tone, she was very satisfied with the name. Since that is the case, by Susu as my subordinate, you will have to obey my orders. Gather your tribe immediately. Tomorrow you will go with the bald eagle king to the center of the mountain range. There will be people from the moon worship tribe who will bring you there. You cannot stay in Tiger Hill mountain range any longer. It will be dangerous if you do. Yes, my king. Like the other kings, Bai Susu didn't object. With their abilities, even if they left Tiger Hill mountain range and moved to other places, they could still live a good life. She saw the power of that cultivator clearly. If she stayed here, she would be in trouble sooner or later. Di-Shirtian's suggestion could be said to be exactly what she wanted. Seeing that even Bai Susu had submitted to him, Zhang Xian knew that he had finished dealing with the matters in the mountain range. Without any hesitation, he brought Bai Yu with him. Suppressing the pain in his body, he made his way to the cave while channeling the tiger roar. He was recuperating from the serious injuries in his body. The full-strength attack of a Foundation establishment stage expert was indeed not an ordinary attack. Although nothing could be seen from the outside, the internal organs of his body had suffered quite a bit of damage. Even his meridians were damaged. These were all things that needed to be healed. Otherwise, hidden injuries would be left in his body, which would be detrimental to his development. It might even affect his plan to open up the demon abode in the future. Just imagine, if his meridians were to rupture at a critical moment when he was channeling his demonic energy to open up the demon abode, it would be a tragedy. After running through the forest for a long time, the moon-worship tribe Wolf King split up to look for his tribe. Di-Shir-Tian also returned to the cave as fast as he could. At this time, the sun in the sky was getting stronger and was slowly approaching the center. Once he returned to the cave, he didn't care about anything else for the time being. He put the bundle in his mouth down beside him and laid down on the warm bear skin. He closed his eyes and silently activated the tiger roar technique. Strands of pitch-black demonic aura seeped out from his pores as he opened and closed them, forming a pitch-black demonic fog outside his body, enveloping his entire body. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the cave quickly surged into his body. Demonic energy shuttled through his meridians. With every cycle, the damaged parts of his body would be nourished by the demonic energy and heal continuously. What a domineering tiger roar! Not far from Di-Shir-Tian's cave, the mysterious girl once again appeared. She looked at Di-Shir-Tian in the cave with an unconcealable surprise in her eyes. During this period of time, ever since she became interested in him, she hadn't left the Tiger Hill mountain range. She had followed behind him and had seen everything that had happened in the past few days. The longer she watched, the more she became interested in Di-Shir-Tian. This was because Di-Shir-Tian's performance was far too unusual. It was far too different from the rest. Just what kind of fortuitous encounter did this little guy get? Not only does he have a cultivation method, but his intelligence is also extremely high and his actions exceed expectations. With my spirit-gathering pills, he was able to cultivate to the peak of the demon realm in such a short period of time. Also, that tiger roar technique allowed him to fight against a foundation establishment stage cultivator without showing any weakness. He even managed to scare them away. Interesting, very interesting. The mysterious girl held a purple petal in her hand and gently played with it. Her cherry lips pulled out a hint of a meaningful smile. Originally, I wanted to help him when he was in danger. But now, not only did I not have to do anything, I'm afraid that I've gained quite a bit. She muttered to herself and pondered for a moment. Then, she lightly said, maybe the secret of the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box can really be uncovered by him. Who? Inside the cave, Di-Shir-Tian cultivated for 4 to 6 hours. The demonic fog around him instantly rushed into his body and devoured everything. His originally closed tiger eyes suddenly opened. 2 cold rays of light flashed across his eyes like lightning. The domineering tiger aura flashed from his body and quickly retracted back. Immortal cultivators are really amazing. Just a foundation establishment stage cultivator was able to heavily injure me. If a stronger one came, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to come back. Di-Shir-Tian's heart was cold. After understanding the strength of immortal cultivators, he felt that it was even more difficult to save the White Tiger Mother and his 2 brothers and sisters. However, this difficulty not only did not destroy his fighting spirit, it instead motivated him to work harder to increase his strength. A light flashed, but this time I've profited from a disaster. After a fierce battle, not only did my battle experience become richer, but the demonic energy in my body also became purer after recovering from my injuries. In the mountain range, although his strength continued to increase, with the help of the spirit-gathering pill, this kind of cultivation speed could be maintained until the demonic energy in his meridians was completely filled. He suppressed the thoughts in his mind. Then, he turned his head and looked at the bag beside him. Inside the bag were the items of the immortal cultivators. Among them were the green ruler and the flying sword. He had personally experienced the power of these 2 magic tools. They were indeed very powerful. However, what Di-Shir-Tian really looked forward to the most was the storage bag on Li Xiangqin's body. In his previous life, in myths and legends there were Chinquan bags, summer mustard seeds, and other immortal treasures that could store items. These kinds of treasures that could store large amounts of items were even more attractive to Tirtian. Voila! He opened the bag with his mouth, and saw that in the originally dark cave there were suddenly a few bright rays of light. In the cave there was a large amount of light. This light was not dazzling to the eyes. When he looked at it carefully, everything in front of him appeared in his eyes. There were not many things in the bag, only a mere 3 items. Chapter 39. One was a 3-inch-long cyan ruler, the other was the scarlet flying sword, and the last one was the simple bag that was not much bigger than a palm. Tirtian looked at the 3 treasures in front of him, and with a slight movement, he stretched out his tiger claw and grabbed the storage bag in his hand. He pulled it a few times with a little force, but found that the bag was made of some unknown material, and there was no damage at all. Sure enough, it's a cultivator's treasure. Tirtian nodded gently, fiddled with it a few more times and thought, the storage bag has always been filled with all kinds of cultivator's treasures, let's see what's inside the bag. He didn't know anything about the items in the cultivation world, so he could only study them slowly. Although the storage bag was only the size of a palm, it could hold items far larger than the size of the bag, and the way to open it must be unusual. After fiddling with it for a while, he found that this storage bag was really strange. Although it looked similar to an ordinary bag, the bag's mouth was tightly shut. No matter how Tirtian tugged at it, he was unable to open it. Even when he tried to inject his demonic power into the storage bag, it was still not working. It only made the storage bag emit a layer of rich cyan light. It didn't open the bag. Demonic power doesn't work. Could it be that my method is wrong? Tirtian fell into deep thought, and for a moment, his eyes suddenly burst into a ball of light, and a light flashed in his mind. In my previous life, I heard that the cultivator's magic treasure would leave their own imprint on it, and engrave their divine sense. In this way, the magic treasure would recognize him as its master. Could it be that to open the storage bag, I have to first imprint my divine sense on it, and let it recognize me as its master? Thinking like this, the light in his eyes became stronger and stronger, and the more he thought that this idea should be correct. Just do it. Tirtian's mind moved, and suddenly, a demonic sense rushed out of his mind and fell on the storage bag. As soon as his divine sense touched the storage bag, it suddenly shone brightly. At the same time, he only felt that a strange space suddenly appeared in his mind. This space was not very big, only 3 cubic meters in size. But in the space it seemed a little empty, and there were only dozens of shiny crystals, an ancient book, a strange compass, and dozens of hundreds of various talismans. There were more than a dozen blank jade boxes, and there was nothing else except these. This should be the space in the storage bag. What's inside? Let's take it out and see. When Sakura saw this space, he immediately realized that this should be the space in the storage bag. It seems that the space in this storage bag isn't big, only 3 cubic meters, which is about the size of a small warehouse for storing items. There were not many things that could be stored, but for him now it was completely enough. After branding the demonic sense on the storage bag, he could clearly feel that he could control the items in this space at will. This was just a thought, and immediately, he saw a flash of light on the storage bag, and the items in the bag immediately spit out. They fell to the ground, not more, not less, and were the items that he just saw. The ancient books that can be stored in the storage bag by the immortal cultivators are definitely not ordinary books. Tirtian put all the things in front of him in order, and after a quick glance, his eyes fell straight on the ancient book. There was a faint expectation in his heart. Maybe this is the ancient book of immortal cultivation in the immortal cultivation world. Voila! Putting the ancient book in front of him and looking carefully, he recognized the words on the cover. Art of longevity. 3 simple words appeared in front of him. Seeing these 3 words, de Chertien's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly opened the ancient book. This look was not out of his expectations, it was really an ancient book of immortal cultivation. After confirming, he immediately put other things aside for the time being, and his 2 eyes stared intently at the contents of the ancient book, word by word, memorizing the contents of the ancient book in his mind. He turned the pages one by one. It was not a thick ancient book, but as he read and memorized it, it took him a full 2 hours to turn the ancient book to the last page. Whew! After reading all of it, de Chertien finally let out a light breath and raised his eyes. His eyes were quite complicated, there was excitement, indifference, expectation, and so on intertwined together. Immortal cultivators, thank you for sending me such an ancient book of immortal cultivation. His eyes were incomparably deep. To be honest, the book in front of him was not a profound ancient book, and it could be imagined that those really powerful cultivation methods would not be recorded on pages, they would be engraved on jade slip. This was just a cultivation method of the qi refining stage that every cultivator in the qi refining stage had when they first started cultivating. The art of longevity had a total of 13 levels. Each level corresponded to a realm of the qi refining stage. For example, if he cultivated to the first level, it meant that he had the cultivation of the first level of the qi refining stage. If he cultivated to the 12th level, it meant that he could proceed to the foundation establishment stage. As for the 13th level, it was called the great perfection of the qi refining stage by cultivators. Not everyone needed to reach the great perfection. At the 12th level, it was completely possible to proceed to the foundation establishment stage. However, when one cultivated to the great perfection, the probability of entering the foundation establishment stage would be 30% higher. The great perfection was naturally very attractive, but it was extremely difficult to cultivate to the 13th level without great perseverance. This art of longevity was very good, and it could be considered a superior cultivation method of the qi refining stage. However, for de Chertien it was almost irrelevant. He already had the tiger roaring technique, which was the most suitable cultivation method for him. It was the behavior of a fool to neglect the essentials. What really surprised him was not the art of longevity, but the 5 elements magic at the end of the art of longevity. Fireball technique, ice blade technique, wind blade technique, earth shield technique, diamond technique, and so on. Although these were just some basic magic, in the cultivation world, almost every qi refining stage cultivator knew 1 or 2 of them. They seemed unremarkable, but for a monster cultivator like de Chertien, who had never received any guidance and relied completely on himself to cultivate, they were simply more precious than any magic tool. It wasn't that he didn't have any demonic power. It was that he had demonic power, but he didn't know any spells. He could only use them based on his own understanding. Now that he knew these spells, his strength could be doubled after he finished cultivating them. Even if his demonic power didn't increase, his strength would be several times stronger than before. It had to be said that this ancient book was simply a timely help. It immediately solved his urgent need and made up for his weakness. Good! Although I was injured this time, it was completely worth it to obtain these treasures, no matter how heavy the injury. De Chertien was excited. He put the ancient book back into the storage pouch and studied the remaining treasures. He knew that the greenwood ruler and the scarlet flying sword were magic tools used for attack. However, these were good treasures. Even if he coveted them, it was useless. He had not opened his demon abode, so he could not blood bond with these 2 magic tools. Without blood bond, he would not be able to display the magic tool's true power. Therefore, he could only look at the treasures and sigh. He also looked at the compass, but did not see anything special. After studying it for a while, he also threw it into the storage pouch. However, he did not know that it was the most precious treasure in here, the psychic compass. After Li Xiangchen died, the compass was placed in the storage pouch. Now that he had taken it back, Di Shirtian had picked up a big meat pie for free. Those talismans were some basic magic. As long as one crushed them with spiritual power, they would turn into magic to attack the enemy. Most of the jade boxes were empty. Li Xiangchen had probably placed them inside to store the spiritual items of heaven and earth. In a small part of the jade boxes, there were already some spirit herbs like sealwort and ginseng. After looking through them one by one, Di Shirtian did not hesitate and put them all into the storage pouch. Although there were many things in there, the storage pouch did not increase in weight at all. It was really amazing. After thinking for a while, he came to the stone wall and took out the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box, the jade bottle containing the soul-gathering pills, and the mysterious beast-taming collar. He put them all into the storage pouch. Tiger Hill mountain range was no longer safe. He also decided to leave this place with the subordinates he had subdued in the past few days as soon as possible. He was going to leave, so naturally, the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box could not be left here. In the past few days, he had made some progress in the puzzle of the Imperial Heavenly Treasure Box. He wanted to see what changes would happen to the treasure box when the puzzle was completed. He also wanted to see what was hidden in the treasure box. Tiger Hill mountain range will definitely attract a lot of cultivators in the future. I can't run back here anymore. It's too dangerous. This time, I'm leaving to take all the things I need to take with me. If he had not obtained the storage pouch, he would not have had such thoughts. Now, with the storage pouch, he could do many things that he did not dare to think of before. As he thought about it, he suddenly thought of the large boulder beside the waterfall. That rock had saved him from danger time and time again. It was definitely a rare treasure that no one knew about. Without a bag of holding, he wouldn't have been able to take it away. However, with the space in his bag of holding, he could definitely fit the rock inside. Hua! As soon as this thought came to mind, it immediately took root in his mind. Without any hesitation, it suddenly stood up and leaped out of the cave with its two hind legs. Its body shuttled back and forth in the mountain forest. Its body emitted a tiger's aura that deterred the surrounding animals. None of them dared to approach it. It rushed to the mountain peak with ease. This little guy is actually running towards me. I'll hide first and not meet him for the time being. The mysterious woman was standing on the mountain peak. Naturally, she noticed Di Shirtian's movements. Seeing that he was actually running towards her direction, she could not help but be surprised. However, she did not plan to meet Di Shirtian now. Her body shook slightly, and in the blink of an eye, she disappeared from the mountain peak. She did not leave. Instead, she used the art of invisibility to hide at the side. She also wanted to see what Di Shirtian wanted to do by coming here. Chapter 40. Demonic cultivation was different from immortal cultivation. Demonic cultivation was not only focused on one's demonic power, but also on one's physical body. During cultivation, demonic power was often divided into two parts. One part would enter the physical body and integrate with the body to enhance one's strength, making the body stronger and the physique taller. Among the demonic cultivators, the larger the body, the more powerful they were. Fighting in their original form was often more powerful than in their human form. Once they revealed their original form, their strength might increase exponentially. Transforming into a human form was only because the human body was the most suitable Taoist body for cultivation in the world. In a real battle, the demonic body was still more powerful. Sakra's body at this time was already comparable to 2 times the size of an ordinary tiger. It could be said that he was huge and burly with a strong tiger aura, majestic and awe-inspiring. When the surrounding beasts caught a whiff of the aura of the king of beasts, They immediately fled in the opposite direction or lay on the ground, their bodies trembling like a sieve. He walked at a moderate speed in the familiar mountain forest. As he walked, he carefully observed his surroundings. Tomorrow, he would leave Tiger Hill mountain range and go to an unfamiliar place. Perhaps he didn't know when he would be able to come back next time. This departure also meant that he would break away from the monotonous life of ordinary beasts and embark on a completely different path. He wanted to become a demon, and he wanted to cultivate a heaven-shaking divine ability. Tomorrow I will leave here. However, if I leave the mountain range, where should I go? Walking in the mountain forest, Sakura began to plan for his future life. Ever since he was born, he had been living in this Tiger Hill mountain range. As for what kind of place was outside, it was also pitch black in front of his eyes. He didn't know anything. To have a definite goal, this was quite important for migration. If it wasn't for the huge change that happened today that caught him off guard, he wouldn't have the time to waste here and had to leave as soon as possible. Before he left, he would have definitely sent by you and the others to scout around and see if there were any other suitable places for him to stay. After confirming, he would start the migration. This was a migration with a purpose and was also relatively safe. However, it was different now. Due to the change, the migration was very hurried. Without a specific direction and goal, many things would definitely happen during the migration. Tiger Hill mountain range has appeared in the eyes of the cultivators. Not only can I not stay in the mountain range, but also near the mountain range. If I am too close, I will be in danger. Therefore, I can only go as far as possible. In the east, there are human towns and villages. If I go out, I will die. Now I can only migrate to the south. Sakura's eyes flashed with sparks of wisdom. The east was definitely not possible, so there were only 3 remaining directions. In these days, he had also stood on the peak and observed carefully. Only the south side was boundless and seemed to be the most suitable for migration. The remaining 2 directions, more or less, were likely to be connected to human settlements. Now, he had already attracted the attention of the immortal cultivators. The only thing he could do was to hide for a while and let this matter slowly die down. Moreover, he needed time to accumulate strength so that he could break through to become a demonic beast as soon as possible and improve his strength greatly. Therefore, the more secluded the place was, the better. It would be best if there was no human habitation at all. That was the safest place. It would allow them to accumulate strength in peace. When the hidden dragon came out of the abyss and amazed the world. South, go south. Tian quickly strengthened his confidence in his heart. He wanted to go south. Time flew by while he was thinking. Unknowingly, he had arrived at the waterfall peak. He shook his head and quickly got rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. He stared at the big rock that was still standing on the peak. His eyes were a little complicated. Rock, the mysterious rock. I don't know if I can open it with my current strength. Sakura took a deep breath. Last time, he wasn't able to move the boulder. These days, he had been continuously consuming spirit-gathering pills to accumulate his demonic energy. The demonic energy in his body had already increased by 30%. At this juncture, he couldn't help but have the impulse to try and see if he could break the boulder. There was definitely a rare treasure in the rock. After cultivating on the rock for the past few days, he vaguely felt a strange connection with the rock. It was as if he could feel something. Good. Let's try again. Maybe I can break open the rock and see the real treasure inside. Tian was not a wishy-washy person. Since he had this idea, he didn't force himself to suppress it. Thinking so, he was about to do it. Roar. First, he quickly circulated his demonic power in the meridians in his body so that he was in peak condition. Waves of dark demonic power flowed through his meridians. He took a deep breath and let out a low roar. He raised a tiger claw and his demonic power rushed in like a tide. In an instant, a layer of dark light burst out from the tiger claw. It doubled in size and became extremely terrifying. The sharp black light was like a metallic luster. The strong tiger aura rolled like a tide and completely covered the entire peak under the aura of the king of beasts. A kind of oppressive aura filled the surroundings. Boom! He poured his demonic power into the tiger claw without thinking about the consequences. When he felt the intense pain in the tiger claw's meridians, he slammed it down. The claw hit the rock solidly. The rock was incomparably hard and mysterious. This time, there was no movement like last time. It also didn't absorb the power he blasted out. Instead, there was a sudden burst of extremely terrifying power in the rock. It shone like white jade and carried the demonic power that Tion blasted out. In an instant, it was all reflected back and poured directly onto him. Bang! This power was truly terrifying. Not only did it contain the power of the boulder itself, it also contained the full force of the Sakra's attack. Just like that, all the power of the boulder was reflected back. When the two powers converged together, one could well imagine how terrifying it was. Tion didn't expect this to happen. Moreover, the power of the rebound came too quickly and didn't give him any time to react. He was hit by this tyrannical power in an instant. Puff! His body seemed to have been struck by lightning. He couldn't hold back a mouthful of blood and spat it out from his mouth. Like a sharp arrow that had just been shot, it fell straight on the rock. Tion's body was also sent flying by the impact. In an instant, he landed heavily on the ground 3 feet away and spat out another mouthful of blood. How is this possible? Tion's eyes were full of shock. In an instant, he suffered more serious injuries than when he was surrounded by those immortal cultivators. His internal organs were almost displaced. His meridians were already cracked. However, what really shocked him wasn't his injuries, but the sudden change in the rock in front of him. He saw that the mysterious rock that was originally simple and unadorned, no different from any other rock. After Tion spat out a mouthful of blood, the blood mysteriously disappeared quickly, as if it had been swallowed by the rock. Then, the jade light on the rock suddenly surged. In contrast to its previous ordinariness, it appeared to have an incredible spirituality. Boom, boom, boom! The huge rock trembled violently and swayed. It rose from the ground and floated 3 feet above the ground. Plop! Plop! The boulder emitted a throbbing sound that resembled a human's heartbeat. Furthermore, the jade light emitted from the boulder also contracted and expanded along with this strange throbbing sound. It truly resembled a beating heart. It was as if a peerless divine fetus was being nurtured in the rock. And now it was about to be born. Looking at the unforeseen event in front of him, Sakra had only stepped into the cultivation world for a short period of time. Even if he had wisdom that wasn't inferior to anyone, his lack of knowledge about the cultivation world made him unable to know what this unforeseen event meant. His body was also heavily injured. He could only look at the change in front of him in shock. Just as surprised was the mysterious girl who was hiding by the side with the art of invisibility. An uncontrollable shock appeared on her proud face that seemed to have been personally created by the heavens. Her small lips unconsciously parted, and her eyes widened. How is this possible? Inside the boulder, there was actually a unique treasure that was unparalleled in the world. No, it might not be a treasure. Could it be a peerless divine fetus that was created by heaven and earth? Even with her knowledge and experience, she was unable to determine exactly what was strange about this boulder when she saw this mysterious scene. Crack! At this moment, a huge cloud suddenly gathered in the sky above the rock. This cloud was not a dark cloud. Instead, it shone with a colorful light. Bolts of lightning with different colors shuttled through the clouds. Dazzling lightning burst forth. Lightning was the power of heaven and earth. It represented the majesty of heaven and earth. The majestic heavens might came from the lightning and covered the entire mountain like a tide. Roar! Tion, who was already injured, suddenly felt another mountain pressing down on him. The terrifying pressure forced him to lie on the ground. Even so, his two tiger eyes were fixed on the strange scene in front of him. This is a tribulation cloud. Heaven, what exactly is being nurtured in the rock? The moment it is born, it provoked heaven to use tribulation to destroy it. The mysterious girl exclaimed in her heart. Crack! At this moment, the tribulation cloud in the sky rolled. A golden bolt of divine lightning fell from the sky with an incomparably sharp aura and mighty divine might. It heavily bombarded the rock. If you want the main character to obtain the ultimate treasure nurtured within the boulder, then just throw in your vote. I want votes. This is a huge twist, and it will lead to a unique setting that I have already planned out. Chapter 41. Boom! The golden divine lightning struck the rock, but the rock didn't show any fear. Instead, it revealed traces of excitement and allowed the divine lightning to strike its body. This divine lightning was indeed the power of the heavenly tribulation. In an instant, the rock that the Sakra couldn't damage, no matter how hard he tried, was blasted into a large number of small broken stones. The golden lightning covered the boulder, wanting to continue to wreak havoc and destroy the boulder. However, the jade light in the boulder suddenly exploded. It suddenly had infinite power and swallowed all the power of the lightning that covered the boulder's surface. Thump! Thump! The sound from the boulder was still the same as before. Moreover, this sound was even stronger than before, as if it had gained strength from the divine lightning just now. Crack! The rock ghost king's actions seemed to provoke the heavenly tribulation in the sky. The heavenly tribulation churned violently, and with a loud boom, a bolt of crimson divine lightning that was even larger than the one before struck the rock ghost king. A violent explosion occurred, and the surface of the rock ghost king was shattered into pieces. It fell to the ground. The boulder's size was even smaller. However, the boulder was incomparably mysterious. It first allowed the divine lightning to destroy the hard boulder on the outside. When the divine lightning completely covered its body, it mysteriously swallowed all the power of the divine lightning in one fell swoop like before. In this way, the heavenly tribulation was no longer as ferocious as before. Here it was like the boulder's food. It was incomparably mysterious. Anger. The heavenly tribulation was furious. The tribulation cloud, that was originally 5-colored, suddenly changed into 7-colored tribulation cloud. Bolts of lightning fell like rain. They continuously bombarded the boulder. The boulder's surface was shattered bit by bit. Every time it received a bolt, the boulder's size would shrink. However, the smaller it was, the more intense the jade light emitted by the boulder. The thump, thump, thump sounds became louder and more powerful. It was as if a peerless divine embryo was being nurtured inside. It was about to break out of the boulder. What kind of treasure is inside the boulder? It actually uses the heavenly tribulation to temper itself and absorb the power of the divine lightning. I have never heard of such a thing happening. Amazing, too amazing. At this moment, the mysterious girl's eyes were also wide open. She stared unblinkingly at the development before her. With her experience, she could tell with a single glance that the rock ghost king was actually absorbing the power of the lightning to temper himself. Such an action was simply earth-shattering and incomparably shocking. She could guarantee that there was absolutely no one in the world of cultivators who was so unbelievably powerful. He dared to absorb the power of the heavenly tribulation. This also indicated that the chief treasure inside the rock was definitely a rare and unparalleled treasure. Boom, boom, boom! Bolts of lightning fell like rain. Every single one of them was extraordinary. The golden one was the Gungjin heavenly thunder, the green one was the Emu heavenly thunder, and the other types of heavenly thunder. All of them were extremely powerful thunder tribulations. The power contained within them was enough to injure a nascent soul-stage-old monster severely in an instant. However, these terrifyingly powerful heavenly tribulations were actually unable to shake the boulder in front of them. Instead, it continued to devour the power of the divine thunder. Every time it swallowed one, the strength of the rock would increase by a bit. Crack! The heavenly thunder continued to bombard the boulder for a quarter of an hour. After being unable to do anything to the boulder, the tribulation clouds rolled violently. Suddenly, they gathered together and turned into a purple heavenly thunder. It crossed the boundary of time and space and heavily bombarded the boulder. Boom! The boulder burst out with thousands of rays of jade light. Countless stones fell from the boulder and burst out in all directions. The jade light covered the sky and the earth. At this moment, the entire mountain was completely covered under the light. The jade light spun around, forming a vortex. Like a terrifying mouth, it instantly swallowed the tribulation clouds in the sky. Chief treasure. This is definitely the chief treasure. If I get it, it will be easy for me to take revenge and save Mother White Tiger and the others. The jade light blazed brightly, causing Tion to see a vast expanse of white. He couldn't see anything. He only heard a loud boom and the lightning in the sky stopped. In his heart, how could he not know that this was definitely the birth of the chief treasure? In his mind, all kinds of complicated thoughts were spinning. A desire to grab the mysterious chief treasure in his hand crazily swelled. In his heart, he kept shouting. In an instant, several inches of light shot out from his eyes. Suddenly, the scene in front of him changed. Swoosh! In an instant, the jade light that covered the sky receded like the tide. In the blink of an eye, it was gone. It was as if the shocking jade light just now was all an illusion. Tion wasn't in the mood to think about this. He quickly looked at the boulder where it was originally. When he saw it, his mouth couldn't help but open wide. Could this be the supreme chief treasure that was born in the boulder? In front of him was a rectangular piece of jade. This piece of jade didn't emit any light. It was a complete piece that was as long as a farmer's bench. As a whole, it didn't have a single flaw. It was perfect and flawless. On top of it, the jade light flowed. At a glance, one could tell that this was definitely a rare piece of jade. Although Tion hadn't seen the jade annulus of the He clan, he believed that this piece of jade in front of him was definitely not inferior to the jade annulus of the He clan. Perfect, it was really perfect. This was a jade embryo that was born from heaven and earth. A jade embryo like this was born in the boulder. What kind of treasure is this? Disregarding his own injuries, Sakura quickly stood up and came to the front of this jade embryo. The jade embryo wasn't as mystical as before. It fell to the ground like an ordinary person. Inside, there wasn't any unusual mystical power. It was as if it was really a piece of supreme jade in the secular world. Patter! Tion walked to the jade embryo and placed his tiger claw on it. His eyes were filled with surprise. What a strange feeling! Although he didn't feel any power from the jade stone, he discovered that there seemed to be a mysterious connection between him and the jade embryo. When he placed his tiger claw on the jade embryo, he could faintly feel that the jade embryo was emitting a trace of joyful aura. It was very strange when it reached his heart. This was a feeling that he had never felt before. This jade embryo was born from the boulder. Although I don't know why I didn't feel the power from the boulder, it's definitely not an ordinary jade embryo. In almost an instant, Tion had already decided that this jade embryo might be a rare treasure. Judging from the power of the tribulation, it was definitely not something that an ordinary object could possess. In addition, the mysterious connection between him and the jade embryo made him instantly certain. The jade embryo in front of him was a treasure. A prime treasure. The mysterious girl sighed in confusion. What's going on? This jade embryo is obviously a treasure born from the boulder, but why can't I feel any power from it? It seems to be no different from an ordinary jade. Strange, this is really strange. Could it be that the tribulation failed and the divine embryo was destroyed by the tribulation? Because of the previous jade light, she couldn't see what happened at all. She only saw that the tribulation turned into a bolt of purple divine lightning. The power in that divine lightning was extremely shocking. Just by approaching the edge, she felt like she couldn't withstand it and was about to reveal her original form. That bolt of purple lightning was really too scary. Now that she saw it again, it was just an ordinary piece of jade. She couldn't see anything special about it. She had also used her demon sense to examine it, but there was nothing special about it. Under her investigation, it was just an ordinary piece of jade. He couldn't help but wonder if the divine embryo had been destroyed by the heavenly tribulation. Once this thought appeared, she couldn't help but temporarily dismiss the idea of taking the jade embryo. Most importantly, she didn't want Tion to know about her existence now. Forget it. Anyway, I'm going to follow behind the little black tiger. If there's anything special, I'll know about it sooner or later. If there's really something strange, I'll just take it when the time comes. It's not good for the black tiger to know about my existence now. I still need to rely on him to crack the imperial heavenly treasure box. The mysterious girl murmured and made a decision. After all, she thought that she would be following Tion for this period of time and could observe him. If there were any changes, she could easily deal with it with her abilities. That was why she wasn't in a hurry to take action. This is a treasure. Different from the mysterious girl's thoughts, Sakura's heart was firm. The jade embryo was a treasure. Without thinking too much, he opened his storage bag and put the jade embryo into his bag. After that, he turned around and walked down the mountain. The huge backlash from the rock just now had already caused him great injuries. They were going to migrate tomorrow. Even if he couldn't fully recover from his injuries, he had to stabilize them temporarily today. No one knew what kind of danger they would encounter during the migration. He had to deal with it in his best condition. Roar! He quickly ran down the mountain and passed through the forest. He couldn't delay the migration any longer. The scene of lightning and thunder just now would definitely be seen by many people in the mortal world again. By then, there would probably be a large number of immortal cultivators entering the mountain range in a few days' time. He couldn't rely on luck. The urgency of the migration was even more pressing. Ignoring everything else, he dragged his heavily injured body back to the cave. He took out a soul-gathering pill from his storage bag and swallowed it. Then, he closed his eyes and began to cultivate. He circulated the tiger roar technique and quickly nourished the injured parts of his body and repaired the cracks in his meridians. His injuries this time were too severe. It was impossible for him to fully recover in a day's time. Thus, he could only rely on the effects of the soul-gathering pill to stabilize his injuries. He had to recover at least 50% of his combat strength. Only then could he more or less guarantee his safety during the migration. Chapter 42. His demonic power flowed through his meridians like a river. His meridians were like rivers. His meridians were like parched canals under the scorching sun. As his demonic power flowed through his meridians, it provided the parched earth with the best moisture. The cracks gradually began to heal under this silent nourishment. The power of the Rock Ghost King's counterattack, in addition to the full power of the Rock Ghost King's attack, had all been inflicted on him. Cracks appeared on his meridians, and his internal organs were greatly damaged. This kind of injury was not something that could be healed in a short day. Now, Sakura could only use the medicinal power of the spirit-gathering pill to recover his own demonic power, and then slowly nourish the injured areas. He temporarily sealed the matter of the jade embryo in his mind. No matter how miraculous the jade embryo was, that was a matter for the future. Right now, the most pressing matter wasn't the jade embryo, but the migration that was right in front of his eyes. He adjusted his condition and tried his best to be in the best state possible for the upcoming migration. Just as Tirtian was silently recovering from his injuries, the creatures in Tiger Hill mountain range were in a state of panic. That was because they realized that the kings in the mountain range had actually moved out at the same time. Moreover, it wasn't just one of them. They were moving out to bring the entire tribe out of their original encampment. Within the Monkey Valley, over 1,000 monkeys of various sizes were bouncing and jumping as they left the Monkey Valley. The majority of these monkeys were carrying things in their hands. They were wrapped in animal fur. They were either wrapped in fruits or seeds. There were also many sturdy monkeys carrying large bamboo tubes of varying lengths on their back. Every single one of them paid special attention to the bamboo tubes. In total, there were hundreds of tubes. There were also many that carried fruit tree saplings. It had to be said that a tribe with a king was often very different from a tribe without one. If it were any other tribe, they definitely wouldn't have made so many preparations before moving. However, the monkey tribe had done so. Under the lead of a golden ape as tall as a human, there were also a few strong wild wolves leading the way. The entire monkey tribe moved out of the Monkey Valley and hurried towards the gathering point designated by Tirtian. At the same time, a shocking number of vultures suddenly flew out of the Condor Peak. The one at the front was huge. When it spread its wings, it was at least a few meters wide. When it flapped its wings, it stirred up gusts of wind. It was very fast. The cluster of golden feathers on its head was like a golden firework. It was like a phoenix standing in a flock of chickens. It stood out from the masses. It led the group of vultures towards the center of the mountain range. On the ground, poisonous snakes of various sizes and colors crawled out of the mountain streams without any warning. There were so many of them that it made one's scalp tingle. The one at the front was a huge white python that was as thick as a bucket. It slithered quickly on the ground, its perfect scales wriggling constantly. The group of snakes passed by, provoking the various birds and beasts in front of them. One by one, they ran in all directions as if they were rioting. Such a large group of snakes was not something that ordinary animals could contend against. Even an elephant would be swallowed by the group of snakes at this time. Not even its bones would be left. The vultures flew in the sky while the snakes crawled on the ground. They were all heading towards the same place. At the same time, in different areas of the mountain range, the three tribes were all heading towards the same place. Such a scene could be said to be very grand. Wherever they passed, all kinds of animals would disappear. With the king's speed, it would not take long for them to reach their destination. However, the ordinary clansmen did not have that kind of speed. Therefore, they would set off as soon as the sky turned dark. That way, they would be able to reach their destination before the appointed time. In the morning, the first ray of light bloomed from the east. It reflected on the clouds in the sky and dyed the clouds red. There was purple air coming from the east. The rays of light dispelled the original darkness. The earth recovered and light appeared again. The golden sunlight shone on the grass and trees in the mountain range. The drops of dew became colorful. It was crystal clear and beautiful. Boom, boom, boom! A waterfall cascaded down from the peak of the mountain and into the pool. Layers of clear water splashed out, and a faint fragrance filled the air of the valley. Taking a deep breath gave people a kind of unparalleled enjoyment that made them feel relaxed and happy. Whoosh! In the cave, Sakra's entire body was covered in a thick layer of black chi. The black chi was condensed and didn't dissipate. It shrouded the surroundings and kept rolling. In the surroundings, strands of heaven and earth power quickly entered the black chi. With a long exhalation sound, the black gas rolled violently. Then, it quickly rushed to the middle and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The mighty body in the middle was revealed. A huge black tiger crawled on the ground. Its body was at least twice the size of an ordinary tiger. Looking at it from afar, one could feel a kind of fierce aura circulating around its body. The king's aura condensed and did not dissipate. The purple king's mark on its forehead was even more obvious. The tiger's 2 eyes suddenly opened. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes. He stood up and shook his sturdy tiger body. Then, he soared into the air with a majestic tiger might. One night can only restore 60% of my strength. The rest, I need to slowly recuperate. Chertian's injuries had recovered more than half in this night's recuperation. He did not have time to slowly recuperate. He could only recover slowly with time. The Ape King and the others should have all arrived at the designated destination. It's also time to migrate, Chertian thought decisively. He rushed out of the cave and ran out to bite an adult deer to death. He drank the blood and ate the meat. After filling his stomach, he returned to the cave and tied the storage bag to his thigh. He looked at the cave and his eyes flashed with a strange light. He thought of the scene when he was just born. His eyes revealed a threatening coldness. White Tiger mother, brother and sister, don't worry. Even if those immortal cultivators catch you to the ends of the earth, I will cultivate to a shocking level and save you. When I find out who caught you, I will destroy their whole family sooner or later. He secretly made up his mind. He turned his head and no longer had any reluctance. Tiger Hill mountain range was only his first stop. Leaving the mountain range was to step into a wider world. All the things that he wanted to take away were all placed in the storage bag. There was nothing left in the cave. Roar! Leaping out of the cave, a heaven-shaking tiger roar came out from Chertian's mouth, and his body quickly leaped forward. The direction he went was the valley under the waterfall. Shuttling through the forest, his speed was quite fast. Not long after, the valley appeared in front of him. At this time, the valley was different from before. One could only see that in the sky above the valley, strong goshawks were constantly circling in the sky. When they saw Chertian appear, a series of eagle cries rang out. The apes all over the ground heard the cries and immediately got up. In the pool, colorful snakes rushed out. Thousands of wolves lying on the ground also quickly stood up. The kings of the 4 great clans also began to move. They organized their respective clans and spread out in the valley. They formed a continuous, dark mass. Welcome, King! Under the leadership of the 4 kings, for a moment, no matter if it was the vultures, wolves, snakes or apes, they all bowed down towards Sakra, who was walking into the valley in their own way. The spirituality of an ordinary race was limited, but every single one of them was looking at Chertian with a trace of reverence. Rise, all of you. Sakra nodded his head in a low voice. The invisible, awe-inspiring aura around his body became even denser. Looking at the valley, the total number of the 4 races added up to more than 100,000. Among them, the number of snakes was too large. They were densely packed and hard to count. As for the others, each tribe only had 2,000 to 3,000 snake. Adding them all together, it was a rather large number. Just think about it for a moment. What kind of shocking scene would it be when the 4 races were all gathered together? Then, the migration of the entire race, such a scene was truly shocking. Baiwe, by Susu, are the 4 of you ready? King, we are ready. All of our tribe members are gathered here. As long as you give the order, we can start moving. Baiwe said respectfully. They were not humans. When moving, they did not need too many things. They just needed to follow. King, where are we moving to? Condor King Yinkong suddenly asked. South. There is no one there. If we keep going south, we will find a suitable place to live. Chertian looked at Yinkong. Yinkong's eyes flashed. He said, King, I can fly in the sky. I have left the mountain range before to look around. I have also been to the south. I found a mountain range that is even bigger than this one. It is very hidden, and there are many powerful auras there. He was the king of condors, and his speed was incomparable. After becoming the king of condors, he didn't stay on Condor Peak all the time. Instead, he left to observe the surroundings. Compared to the other kings who had never left the mountain range, he had a lot of valuable knowledge. When Di-Shir-Tian heard this, his 2 eyes immediately shot out a shocking light. He realized that the place that Ing Kong mentioned might really be a good place to go. Eagle Kong, how much do you know about that mountain range? Tell me everything. Without hesitation, he asked Ing Kong. The other 3 leaders also looked at Ing Kong. Ing Kong didn't hesitate and immediately told them everything he knew. Turned out that if you kept going south from here, it was called the Southern Land. That area was not suitable for ordinary people to live in. Therefore, there were all kinds of beasts there. Recommended author, Invincible Iron Knight. Author, Otaku Evildoer Bai Cho, the genius otaku of the gaming world, was accidentally playing the latest version of an online game. The system mutated, and he was transported to another world. In the other world, he became a very strong, loving, and promising prisoner who was exiled by his family for molesting a princess. Damn. This joke was too big. As the first virgin in history to transmigrate, Bai Cho found that his future was very bleak. Chapter 43. Poisonous miasma, swamps, and various other incomparably dangerous ominous grounds. In some places, even if a cultivator were to fall into it, their cultivation would be reduced to nothing and they would be completely buried within this mountain range. Of course, at the same time that it was dangerous, there were also various temptations within the mountain range that made cultivators want to enter tirelessly. For example, there were various exotic plants, various rare spirit medicines, precious equipment refinement materials, and so on. All of them were treasures that made cultivators go crazy, and they wouldn't hesitate even if they had to lose their lives. Therefore, in the eyes of those rogue cultivators that didn't belong to a cultivation sect and some cultivation clans, the southern barbaric mountain range was a place that was rather worthy of attention. There would often be rogue cultivators that entered the mountain range with the mentality of luck, hoping to find some spirit medicines that would allow their cultivation to break through. They would be able to find precious equipment refinement materials and refine a top-notch magic weapon. Everyone had the mentality of luck, and there were quite a few lucky people. Those that were able to leave the mountain range were usually those that more or less obtained some benefit. As for those that didn't leave, they would be buried within the mountain range and become food for various ferocious beasts. However, in terms of concealment, Di-Shir-Tian and the others could indeed become inconspicuous after entering this mountain range. Moreover, if they were to find a concealed place to live, they might be able to rely on the uniqueness of the southern barbaric mountain range to allow their cultivation to rapidly increase. After all, in the southern barbaric mountain range, there existed a large amount of various spirit medicines that were difficult to grow in ordinary mountain ranges. Such a large mountain range was more than enough to hide them. Southern barbaric mountain range? A contemplative expression appeared in Di-Shir-Tian's eyes, and he secretly thought in his heart, "This is indeed a good place. I'm a demon, and although I've obtained cultivation techniques, I don't know anything about other techniques. Since there are rogue cultivators and cultivator clans within the southern barbaric mountain range, at that time I can obtain these cultivation techniques and secret techniques from them. Cultivation requires the support of medicinal pills. Only like this can I increase the speed of cultivation. There are spirit medicines within the mountain range, and I can solve this source of materials." Although Di-Shir-Tian wanted to leave the Tiger Hill mountain range because of the cultivators, it was because the Tiger Hill mountain range was only so big, and the most prominent person was himself. If he were to really offend a formidable cultivator, then he would sooner or later suffer a great loss. If he continued to stay in the mountain range, He would be the best example of the saying, "The tallest tree in the forest will be the first to be destroyed by the wind." He would definitely not have a good ending. The southern barbaric mountain range was different. Even though the number of cultivators that came and went was even more than the Tiger Hill mountain range, within the mountain range, there existed a large amount of mutant beasts or formidable demon beasts. All of this guaranteed that even if he went to the mountain range, he wouldn't attract the attention of anyone and would be able to stay within the scope of the cultivation world. If he had the time and opportunity, he could slowly learn about the immortal cultivation world. He was always aware of the developments in the immortal cultivation world. In addition, there were all kinds of resources in the mountain range that were useful for cultivation. If one were to seriously consider it, then the southern barbaric mountain range was absolutely the best place to go. King, when I was flying in the sky above the southern barbaric mountain range, I once discovered an enormous valley. The valley is very well hidden. If we go there, that place is most suitable for us to live in and establish our foundation. Kong said in the end. These words put down the final bargaining chip in Tian's heart that was originally faintly about to make up his mind. His tiger-like eyes flashed as he said, "All right, we'll go to the southern barbaric mountain range." Kong, how long will it take to go to the southern barbaric mountain range? King, if we move without restraint, it will take at least a month. Kong said straightforwardly. Since he had made up his mind, Tian became even more resolute. He directly looked at the 4 subordinates in front of him and said, Kong, you'll lead your clansmen to observe the path and the enemy in the air. If there are any changes, immediately report to me. Yes, King. Kong responded respectfully. He raised his head to the sky and let out an eagle cry. Immediately, the flock of eagles soared into the sky and circled in the air, beginning to move southward. They observed the movements in all directions. You lead your clansmen to explore the path ahead. Yes, King. Yu nodded in agreement. He also let out a high-pitched wolf howl. Several thousand wolves left the valley and explored the path ahead. Yuan Tian, give me the monkey wine you brought. I'll carry it. Follow me. By Susu, you bring your snakes to bring up the rear. Follow closely behind. Tian gave out one order after another. The monkey wine was a rare spiritual wine that could increase one's demonic power. In the future, when the spirit-gathering pills were used up, he would rely on this wine to increase his cultivation. In the future, when Yuan Tian and the others stepped onto the path of demonic cultivation, these would be treasures to increase their strength. He couldn't be careless. Only when he put them in his storage bag could he truly be at ease. Yuan Tian didn't have the time to let the monkeys gather the monkey wine together. Seeing Sakura use his storage pouch to take away all the spirit wine in one go, this kind of method made him feel awe and yearn for it even more. After all the orders were given, the grand migration finally began. The flock of eagles flew in the sky, while the wolves explored the path ahead. In the middle, Tian and the monkeys supported each other. If there were any changes, they would be able to react in time. With the group of snakes at the back, they could deter any creature that harbored ill intentions. Once the decision was made, they moved quickly. They headed straight for the south. With the eagles in the sky guiding them, there wouldn't be any problems with the direction. Such a migration team could be said to be unhindered in the mountain range. They set off in the morning and hunted some prey along the way. They didn't stop moving. In the evening, Tian and the others had already left Tiger Hill mountain range. Tian had left, but outside the mountain range, streaks of light could be seen flashing in the sky. If there were immortal cultivators, they would be able to see that those were immortal cultivators flying in the sky on all kinds of Dharma artifacts. There were many such immortal cultivators, and the direction they were heading was precisely the location of Tiger Hill mountain range. On the ground, there were also many immortal cultivators using divine travel talismans and wind-riding talismans. Along the way, two of the immortal cultivators seemed to know each other and walked hand in hand. They immediately began to talk as they hurried along the way. Big Brother Sue, last night, there was lightning and thunder in Tiger Hill mountain range. Someone said that a heavenly tribulation appeared in the mountain range. Now almost all the immortal cultivators in the vicinity are rushing to the mountain range. Do you think someone is really going through a heavenly tribulation or a rare treasure has appeared? A delicate voice sounded. Looking over, they saw that the owner of the voice was a petite young girl. This young girl's temperament was delicate and soft, which made her seem exceptionally lovable. Seeing her, they would naturally have a desire to protect her. She was the kind of person who was born to be cared for and protected by others. It can't be wrong. The possibility of someone going through a heavenly tribulation is not big. In the immortal cultivation world, those who can go through a heavenly tribulation are the ancestors of each sect. If they want to go through a heavenly tribulation, it is absolutely impossible for them to go to such a remote place. It is most likely that a treasure has appeared in the secular world. When the heavenly tribulation appeared, we could feel it from thousands of miles away. The immortal cultivator surnamed Sue was quite happy to answer. Junior Sister Huang, this time there will definitely be a large number of immortal cultivators rushing to the mountain range. As for rare treasures, we don't have any extravagant hopes. Even if there were, it wouldn't be something that Qi condensation disciples like us would be able to get our hands on. We'll wait for the cultivators to gather in the open market and see if we can find anything suitable for us. Bai Xiaochun nodded. The immortal cultivator surnamed Su seemed to be a person who knew his own limit. He knew that if there really were rare treasures, small immortal cultivators like them would be digging their own graves if they really got involved. They would lose their lives before they could get the treasures. What he really wanted was the market among the immortal cultivators. What was a market? To put it bluntly, it was a place where immortal cultivators traded, or a market. It was like a market in the secular world. However, ordinary people traded ordinary items in the secular world, while immortal cultivators traded various items used by immortal cultivators, such as spiritual talismans and materials, or magic tools and so on. This time, the unusual change in Tiger Hill mountain range would definitely attract many immortal cultivators. At that time, when many immortal cultivators gathered together, there would be a high chance that they would open a market by themselves. They would start trading. After all, it was rare for individual immortal cultivators to meet each other. It was even rarer for so many of them to meet together. There was a 90% chance that a market would open. Therefore, they were not going to the market to look for treasures, but to trade for useful things. Speaking of which, the heavenly tribulation triggered by the Rock Ghost King was simply too powerful. Such a powerful heavenly tribulation could be clearly seen even from thousands of miles away. It was hard not to attract attention. Therefore, from the beginning of the day, a large number of immortal cultivators rushed to the mountain range. Among these people, there were two groups that were more special. One group was led by a middle-aged man with a dignified aura. Behind him, if one looked carefully, one would find that the two foundation establishment cultivators of the Li family, who were scared away by Di Shirtian's tiger roar that day, were among them. Needless to say, this group of people was from the Li family, a family of immortal cultivators. It was no wonder that not only did a young master die in Tiger Hill mountain range, but the two foundation establishment cultivators also lost their magic tools. Most importantly, the psychic compass, which was the family treasure of the Li family, was also lost in the mountain range. The loss was so great that it could be said to be unprecedented. How could the Li family let it go so easily? Moreover, a heavenly tribulation appeared in the mountain range. Immediately, even the core formation ancestors of the family were provoked. A group of people rushed over in a grandiose manner. As for the other group, it was an old man with a frivolous expression. He brought a young girl with him and rushed towards the mountain range. This young girl was none other than Princess Chu Yun, who was extremely obsessed with Black Tiger. Last time, she escaped again, but Qin Hai died at the hands of Di Shirtian. This made her finally realize that with her strength, she could not do anything to Black Tiger in the mountain. Therefore, she returned to the capital, found help, and made a comeback. There is only 1 week left for the new book release. For such a long time, I have been suppressed by the great gods. It is difficult for me to breathe. I hope that everyone can help me rush up the new book list in this last week. Let me have a taste of the new book list. Recommend, recommend, and recommend again. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.